And I'll just double check. And we are live, guys.
Hello. Hello, a really warm welcome to everybody who's joined us here today, past, present and future. And for those of you who don't know, this is our new platform, the Two Feathers Medicine platform with Maty and Dale Tobin. It's the new platform for Andrew Bartzis, the Galactic Historian's teachings. And we're really honoured to be here doing this. We've opened the Zoom room now, so if people want to come in and join us this evening, this is the start of our Halloween marathon that we're going on with Andrew over the next 3 evenings here in the UK, which will be 2 p.m. EDT and 7 p.m. UK time until Sunday and Monday when we go to 6 p.m. UK time because our clocks go back. So this evening, we are going to take a look at the criminal world. And the criminal world has a spiritual side and a human side. So that's something we'd all like to investigate with Andrew tonight. So over to you, Andrew, and welcome.
Well, everyone, welcome to the new edition, the Grandmasters series, where the champions of champions come forward and say, we're tired of the old and going to create something new. We're all going to work together in a community building platform. If you don't know, we are also on Locals, building a Locals page, and we'll be doing all of our shows through there also, so more people will be able to connect in their own way, because not everyone can, right now, not everyone can be at the same time for the live shows. And we want to ask feedback at the same time. So why we are doing this marathon is to get people used to, switching from one place of watching into another. We know a lot of people have hard habits with that. So we wanted to give you something mouth-watering and salivating. And today we're also joined by Maty and Dale Tobin. Both you guys have had some, unique experience as well as Laura there. What we want to do is set up the story, the salivating story that people can learn from. And now the criminal world, we see it through movies. We see it through all different lenses. So I ask everyone to take off your old lenses and put on the new lenses of I'm a spirit observing the real world and the spirit world behind that. And I have neutral enough vision. I will not get lost in something ugly. Okay. I will allow myself to understand this is a story, a metaphor in which to learn. It is not something for you to insert your laser focused into one thing. Part of learning multidimensional living is allowing things to tell you their story their way. Okay, so Maty, Dale, Laura, let's all just do a quick clearing prayer. So each of us will do a couple lines based off of what is in the potential future. So that's the type of prayer we're going to do. So I, in this ever-present moment now, and look at the ever-present future and its implement point of view. I allow that to be into my implicate order, and I allow myself to not interfere through competition in any place, space, or time. Laura?
I put myself into a sacred space of sacred neutral perspective.
With that
Dale?
sacred neutral perspective, sorry guys.
Go ahead.
Dale. Okay, and with that sacred neutral perspective, may all information that we bring be not polarized, may it not be used as a weapon, may it not be used by another's ego or their shadow, may it be a teaching, and may we all learn in equal co-creation with one another for the purpose of peace.
And I allow my inner genius to step forward now in this present moment, as I allow myself to co-create with all of you in this sacred space and this meeting. As we journey into the unknown together, make the unknown become known. Aho.
Aho. With that being said, let's everyone sharpen our story listening ears. Get yourself ready, get yourself a drink. So over the years, I have described the spirit world. How if you're living in the city, the concrete jungle, or just living in any haunted ass city like New York City, Atlanta, Paris, London, any of the places where there's long-term death going on. you will have ghosts that go and go. Because of our world wars and civil wars all over, we have many rural townships that are just as haunted as Main Street, capital USA. So I'm just going to describe a city of, let's say, 100,000. It's not exactly a big city, but not a small city, and there's a city above it and below it. So this is always the redheaded stepchild of the area. Everybody knows where it is, but no one ever wants to go there. Okay, so just imagine that place. It's a 200-year-old city, and we're going to say that this is in southern Florida. So then we just tune into southern Florida energy. Sun during the day, hurricanes come out and kill you every now and then. Okay, but pretty much beautiful all year round, and cocaine everywhere. Okay, just so you understand, the entire state of Florida that is concrete, high rise over 2 floors, that is luxury stuff, was all made by cocaine money. Let's start there. Maty, let's have you add your perspective and view about how cocaine creates many multi-layers of ghosts internationally.
Oh, gosh. Well, internationally, I'm not entirely sure. I know that from production, there will be rituals that are done over the cocaine. Lots of imprintation that will be done, maybe even sacrificial energy.
Creates many multi-layers of ghosts. We've got whoever that is. You got to turn off your microphone.
I've got it. Yeah. And so also the energy that gets picked up, the kind of people that will be involved in moving the cocaine, cutting the cocaine, holding the cocaine, transporting it wherever it needs to go, even the people that are arranging the deals, speaking with one another, these will be highly haunted people that are, use violence.
So let's take a look at what a highly haunted person is. Let's say that person leads an organization of 10 or 20, and the head guy's got the most demons, and everyone below them's got a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less. So those 20 guys could probably be 200 demon type energies. Let's just process that a second. Okay. Even if the people have no idea about spirituality, they are still imprinting the negative frequencies, rituals, and ceremonies from the other realms into that cocaine that has had the original karmic retribution to be pulled out of the ground, pulled out of the leaf and put into that thing so that it can be gratuitously affecting the world because of the supply and no one ever doing anything about the supply. Okay. Every country in the world uses cocaine. Okay. Every country.
You can buy it in every town in the UK, always, all year round.
Everywhere.
And village and villages everywhere.
Well, on that Gordon Ramsay show I watched, he went around London to his restaurants and he tested all of his toilets for cocaine, and they pretty much all had it on there. Yeah. In the toilets.
Yep. Because it's everywhere, literally. But with that being said, we are going to set up a story, kind of like, spiritual cops episodes. Okay.
Matt, are you going to sing?
so we're at the bad boys moment. Bad boys, bad boys. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when we come for you? Okay. So we are in a cop car racing towards a shootout on this indescript Florida town. We are cameramen. Okay. It is a shootout in a drug neighborhood. And all we hear is shots fired, dead bodies. We get there. We get out of there. We are putting our cameras up and running around, and you see 10 dead bodies, 15 dead bodies, people shot everywhere. Okay? And then you see a car racing away that other people are shooting at. That's the craziness of what's going on with these drug wars. What do you think had to happen in the demonic world to trigger that firing on those people? Because it absolutely influenced the choices of those people.
Well, it's the lack of respect for human life, their own and all other life. I mean, the level of haunting you have to have, and the kind of thoughts, the repetitive thoughts that they're going to be given, and the situations to get into to take another human life, create these huge volumes of fear.
Well, really, the demons have taken over so much. I mean, there can be very little sovereignty left in.
That's
in
not
them.
true. There are
Really?
there are aspects of that full-blown criminal world that people come into knowing there are karmic negative bombs and karmic positive bombs, meaning a certain victory at a certain time will endure a very long-term positive karma for them being a drug dealer. I mean, they won't die early. That's why so many of these drug dealing groups have their own, literally, religion approved for by the Catholic Pope himself, because they paid billions of dollars to the church so that they could have their own saints and everything you can think of. They have ritualized everything.
So how do they keep themselves so sovereign with all that going on around them?
This is where they begin to work with the middle and darker aspects of reality, negotiating, debating, because they have so many minions that tithe energy upwards. There are certain deals they can take and not take damage, real hardcore damage to themselves, because they harvest off their minions.
Yeah. And so would there be fighting amongst the demonic entities as well? So they're not just
Absolutely.
trying to get
Absolutely.
Yeah. And would you get certain lineages of demons that work with certain crime families and have done for a long time?
Yes, ancestral
Karmically tied to them.
crime families, yes, because criminality is a very huge part of the ancestral world. People have to choose to be criminals because it moves forward what? Karmic retribution on both sides, everyone's side. So it's a very positive thing to have when you're in a karmic resolution stage. Okay. But there are times that crime has its limits. Well, now crime in our modern society has grown so transparent. You know, the normal people are considered criminals daily, are considered or made to be criminals for no reason.
So for the average Joe who, say, if you bought, who deals like maybe like 3 ounces a week or something and does it to feed his own personal habit, what karmic ties is he taking on by selling that to someone?
So first thing first, 3 ounces a week is a lot. Maty, would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yes, especially when you consider that you're breaking that down into grams, and then
they're breaking that down into grams, right? And that's how many
28
people you
grams
can
per
see.
ounce. That's right.
That's
It's
how many
28 per
people.
ounce.
Yeah, that's like 70 people coming to get from you. They're all getting gram at a time because most of them are just going to get a gram at a time. So what does that 1 gram do spiritually?
It passes down all of that demonic connection. All of the haunting comes to you. That energy enters into you, into your very blood.
There are certain dealers that can nullify some of that negative energy. So it's just built into their karma. And that's also a karmic trust factor. So there's a tremendous amount of karmic layers that bring the drug to the person to make the choice. And there are many agreeant actors and compliant and uncompliant actors who get it there. Okay. So once you take that first hit, is that where the spirit ends? And is that where it enters? No, it's subtle. It waits. Okay. It waits in such a way when you're tired, you're nasally, it goes and goes and goes until it finally bull weevils its way into your reality.
And this is why you have, say, people with heroin, when they do it, they're basically possessed, you know, when they go under and pass out. It's just
no, this is different. This is the need to have more, the addiction.
Oh, I see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's a, sorry, Andrew. There's another element to it as well with the cocaine consumption, because projection wise from the people that are buying off of the dealer and all of their unseen world as well, because anybody who's been in this world will know very well that person's going to come for a gram at 8 o'clock in the evening. You're going to hear from them by midnight, maybe 1, 2, and then again at 5 o'clock in the morning. You know, and you know, and as the nights get worked up and everybody is trying to hustle their money and get all panicky and everybody's all drugged up and the ghosts are doing their things and that all their energy is then laser focused on you as the dealer. Yeah.
Imagine what the ghosts are like on payday, end of the month in England.
Exactly. But
they're like, what time is it? Last Friday of the month, bitch.
Exactly. All right, so somebody's asking about how does the Babylonian money magic curse system? That's exactly it. It's a curse system. all the drug money that goes on it. There isn't a single piece of paper currency that's in the world right now that doesn't have cocaine residue on it. Okay. Think about that. That's how far it's everywhere.
So is cocaine as a plant trying to resolve its karma too?
Good question. So cocaine was never meant to be distilled into that form. Okay. It was meant to be eaten as a leaf and added to water to deal with temperature and altitude sickness. It allowed people to work for extended periods of time with lesser amount of food and still be able to burn muscle if you did it, if you had long-term carbohydrates. So it is something that system-based science purposely developed the most extracted, purest version of it and gave it to the world's top psychologists. And they smoked it in cigars by the ounce. Not the watered down stuff that everyone else has.
Yeah.
Okay, not that watered down shit. Pure, right from the leaf, pure extracted through ether. Okay.
Which is free based.
And guess who those people are? Our top psychologists in history. They all were cocaine addicts.
Like that guy, remember the Amber Heard trial? He looked,
Yeah.
who'd literally like go, oh, I've watched it like thousands of times. I just keep watching it and like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh, you said rave in the 90s.
Yes.
Was that the guy with the twitch?
Yeah, we starts licking his lips. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So with that, somebody was asking about was it Sigmund Freud? Sigmund Freud had a gigantic habit. He would have 1/8 of an ounce of cocaine a day in cigars. Okay, and then snort another quarter to another eighth every day.
Oh,
okay,
the
purest of the pure.
How do they even function?
I can't answer that one, but they became the most published psychotherapists in history.
Okay? Well, it's what's he called out of Friends? Which one out of Friends is? It basically ruined his colon, hasn't he? From coke. He's
Matt Perry.
Yeah, his colon's burnt a hole in it.
Yeah,
from his lifetime of doing it.
Wow.
All right. So with that set up, let's delve deeper into the criminal world. So we've got our fictional town, we've got our cops that have done, we've got dead bodies everywhere. Okay, that's the physical scene. What's going on in the astral world, in the ghosty scene?
A lot of feeding.
Okay, Laura, just give your view and perception of it.
Well, there's going to be a lot of feeding from the unseen world on all the fear that's created, all the grieving, everything else surrounding that.
And there's anger and aggression as well. I can feel like it, they're not just saying yes, bonus. These beings, the way they function, there'll be a lot of chaos going on as well.
And creating more chaos to create yet more fear.
Even in the unseen, because they have a hierarchy as well, you see.
Yes.
And imagine all of a sudden you went into a poor neighborhood and you just poured a bag of money on the floor. What would happen? It's that kind of scenario.
Well, it's like
so there's a pecking order in who feeds.
Right. Yeah.
Okay? Those people who had just died in their body, what's going on with them individually?
So they'll be going through a life review. We'll coming out the body,
say that again,
realizing that
their life review don't start right away.
They
still got to come out of the body and still figure out what's going on, and then they might have a life review.
Yeah, they'll have trouble finding source light, won't they?
And
not even that. Sometimes they just have a contract where they got to wait 48 hours before they can see the light, and it's not about doubt or anything. It's just a getting used to phase.
So the contract continues through death.
Yeah, but they can't communicate to either side. They're in an in-between space.
Right. And who's running that in-between space, though?
Yeah, but there's still chemical parts of their sympathetic and parasympathetic that can be taken over by the ghosts and harvested from. Again, there's a whole multidimensional view. That's why I said when we look at them, there's the soul coming out of the body and the realization. What are the demons going to do to that?
What about the sacred job?
Straight on it.
Well, they want to claim souls, don't they?
No, they want it to give service willingly.
Right. Oh, okay.
So there will always
Yeah.
be those that just jump in and start feeding, but most of these controlled areas, the pecking order is you don't just devour it. That most of that's got to go up level. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get a nibble and that's it. Okay.
Exactly like the real criminal world.
Right. The real criminal world takes that and does what it does with it. Okay.
And what does the sacred geometry, you know, for trapping spirits do then to
That's
that
what makes
soul?
it easy for them to appear in one reality and the other at the same time and make crossovers that can make uniquely freaky moments, because those are highly harvestable situations. When the fracturing of observance reality and something happens in front of you and the ghosts are timing it like a giant spook scare and take advantage of whatever happens.
And how far out can they go? Because you've probably got onlookers here. You've
So
probably got
depending on the type of sacred geometry thing, let's say it's let me give it something more importance, like a church from the 1800s. Okay, it's older church. It's not, you know, uncommon. There are older churches around, but that church has history, and that is the linear aspects of how ghosts come in and out of our reality. So wherever the church is, it could be 4, 5, 6, even 10 miles or more, that object will be affecting the unliving sources. But there will also be other features and objects that allow the unliving more of a living space. Certain groves of trees, the way they build concrete and water moving pipes underneath them make it very ghost positive. That's why a lot of city streets are absolutely flooded with ghosts who are just following the water lines.
So on a different subject, Andrew, I guess some of these criminal organizations have certain rituals that they do on their weapons as well and their ammunition. So
in the physical?
In the physical, yeah. So is it possible for a gun to be haunted as well?
Good question. So in the criminal world, there are those that are the stone cold killers, but pretty much atheists. They don't believe anything.
Right.
Okay. And then there are the ones that are fully on religious. From Israeli to every one of them has their own zealot and sub-zealot within it that is only described by their culture. Now, those people that are raising into that spot, in their whole culture, only 20 or 30 a generation will really rise, maybe 50 at most from their culture, because they die fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that soul has a goal to be on that list during that generation, because he will make global impact. Maybe negative, it may be it may be a variety of things, but he will make global impact. Seen and unseen. Oftentimes they have family crests, correct? They make trusts and all sorts of things. And they do direct haunted energy, particularly the Mexican drug cartels, the Ukrainian cartels, absolutely. All of the Indian, the Bangladeshi, and the Chinese too have their own dark magic ways of doing business.
So these cities have been like created from the ground up just to basically trap and have people feeding off entities, and it's just like a soup of that.
It's a big honeypot, a big giant honeypot.
And the ghosts that are there already, because there'll be resident ghosts already in these cities.
From many different layers of history.
Right.
Below, hold on, there are regular purges of the astral worlds. So it's kind of like immigration comes up and rounds up a bunch of migrant workers and then deports them all. That happens. That does happen in the astral world, and a lot of times gangs are affected by it. This is why you have so many people that will become turncoats.
Who does the rounding up?
Death.
Okay.
People in that type of industry cheat death all the time. Okay, they cheat all the time, whether they know it or not. They cheat death, and then when death comes from it, you don't get to cheat no more. You're done. Okay, no more get out of jail free cards.
So, like a lift scenario, because I know you've talked about lifts being haunted as fuck. What would be the case for that then? Having loads of people together, it would just be a soup of basically energy they can harvest when they're going to say to work or.
So let's say escalators.
Yeah, elevators.
Elevators or escalators. Okay.
Yeah.
No, elevators are different. Sorry, because there used to be a human present there, which is a different welcoming energy. So put it like this. If you are walking in a crowd of people and there's always going to be a path of least resistance that you'll only see in the moment, and it's a matter of everyone else syncs up with you and sees the same thing. Whenever something wants to target you, it wants to be outside of your sight of knowingness. Okay. Usually there's 2 layers of watchers, sometimes 3, sometimes more. What are the layers doing? Looking for your most vulnerable point. One is looking at you from, are you paying attention to sound? Are you thinking to yourself? And it's collecting all this data and sharing it with the other parts of the hunter group. Okay. And then who's ever going to be the best skilled at gathering your attention while the others try to invade you. Okay. And then when they're done with that, whether they succeed or fail, they will start again in 10 minutes. And 10 more minutes, and 10 more minutes, and 10 more minutes. And then 5 days later, did they get in? Okay.
When they wore you down, they got in.
Or you gave up.
Yeah.
So on or so forth. And that's what a lot of these high-level gang members deal with. Okay.
And then with cocaine itself being a sexual drug as well.
Oh yeah.
So that adds a whole nother system of commerce to the drug. Where heroin's it's more prostitution based, but cocaine is much more actual recreational sex and promiscuity, isn't it? So
right. Yeah.
There's all that energy exchange there as well.
So going back to the elevator attendant, or the lift as we call it over here, I remember when there used to be someone sat on a stool on the inside of the lift.
And that used to be considered the best place for the oldest demons in the universe to be.
Right. They had a sitting target, a sitting duck.
No, they had a moment of trust.
Oh, go on.
Expand on that.
You walk into something that goes up mechanically, and if you've never seen anything go up mechanically, where are you putting your faith?
Yeah.
Okay? That was the cream of the crop spot. Okay? Okay? Now it's just buttons. Things have changed in the demonic world. Imagine when a demon used to be able to make his money just in an elevator. They automated my job.
When they do this system of commerce, so when somebody consumes, say, cocaine, for instance, how much of that demonic energy, how does it travel through that? What's the actual process that they use, and what gets through and what doesn't, if that makes sense?
It works off of a system of taint. So I want you to think of you as have a pure 5 gallons of water, very pure, clean. And you come home from work and you're like, shit, I got to wash my hands. Instead of going to the sink, you just put it into your 5 gallons of water and you wash your hands. Is that water still clean?
No.
Okay. But is there a certain amount of that is clean? Is it drinkable? Just because you wet your hands in it, just because you put your hands in and got them wet and quick, pull them out.
Obviously, if you use soap, that's what I was envisioning as well. But if you're just putting it, then you could survive on it. It wouldn't hurt you.
Yeah. So how many of it before the bucket is filled up with? It's not going to hurt me. How many 5-second rules come to something you shouldn't be doing? That's how it gets into you, and it's so slow that the taint can only be seen by your own internal vision or the demon's external vision or the minions, because they can watch it. It's going to grow. It's going to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like watching a plant grow inside people.
Yeah.
Because it's a chemical overtake.
Yeah.
A subtle chemical overtake.
And alcohol as well. When so many people consume alcohol with cocaine, and the two blend into cocainol, and that is so much more addictive. But also you've got the alcohol in the blood as well, which is making it more programmable.
Yes, and the program, and then the alcohol itself comes with its own programs, because why do they call alcohol spirits?
Mhm.
Okay? There's a reason. I talk about alcohol brewing all the time on my shows for people to do it for positive. What do you think that shelf on the bar is? That's all taint. But it could also be seen as something positive. There are many people that drink certain bottles out certain places. Why? Because there's an energy in it, whatever you want to call it. But those bottles of spirits up in the wall in that bar can be considered some tainted ass shit if a lot of drug shit goes on in that club.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Andrew was telling me we had a private conversation once that the refrigerators also give off electromagnetic frequency.
Yep.
So when you put the haunted alcohol into the bars, into the fridges and that, they're pumping out the energy. It's like, you know,
Wow.
Andrew was saying, even the cars driving past the shops when they've got those big refrigerators full of alcohol and beers, even the cars driving past and the people that come in and out all imprint into that alcohol. And then that energy is being pumped out in a dirty underwear energy scenario.
Wow.
Like whenever I go into the alcohol line now, I always like to say hello because I can feel it, you know. Yeah.
So for like, you know, when you're out in public and a Karen kicks off or someone kicks off, is there any ghost like pushing them, and how do they push them to, you know, to get angry and stuff like that? What moves do they use in the unseen world?
This is exactly the spooky energy I wanted for this Halloween. Okay. Because this can be turned over into a direct teaching. How do you know when they're getting in? Well, the real question is, how do you know when you're paranoid? Okay. If you're already questioning if they're in, they're probably already in. Okay. So the first thing in this particular scenario, when something is kneeing at you, gnawing at you, nagging at you, creating something that you have to respond to, it already has your numbers. It's observed you long enough to figure it out. This is where you have to do a complete and total reality shakedown. Okay, close off all the portals, reopen them and close them multiple times and watch things that are looking in on you, attack back through the portals, and then ultimately seal them up and start over and scramble all your frequencies so they can't keep tuning into you. That's due diligence. Yeah. Once they have you, they have you. How do you get away from them? Well, that's where guilt, karma, and all those other things that go around these criminal stories. Now, how often do they have the perfect life and then die the criminal and no one knew? Okay. Or any of the other ones, you know, it's got, 17 kids and 5 ex-wives. What do those kids get?
Mm.
Son or daughter of a drug dealer?
Mm-hmm. And you see it quite a lot within the music industry as well, and the crime that comes with because that's a criminal industry as well. So, you quite often see some of the top artists will lose children, things like that. That's quite a frequent one. Mm-hmm.
So here is an opportunity for you all to learn from the next set of things that we're going to do. I'm going to go back to our cops episode we were talking about earlier. Dead bodies, things being harvested, there's a pecking order, and then the cops come on the field and start doing forensic analysis. The majority of the demons leave now because they have a different relationship to cops. There's a different group of demonic interactors work with the police agencies, as well as angelic operators. This is what determines if the souls get passed up the food chain or get an immediate portal and life review, or not necessarily life review, portal into an astral place in which they can begin losing the I am, which can be a difficult process, but it's a protected place.
So you're saying that police have both angelic realms with them
and demonic realms working with them too, yes.
Okay.
So I've had interactions with police, many interactions with the police, and they have this sense to know they're using psychic skills all the time.
Yeah.
It's a part of their process, even if they don't know that they're doing it. That goes right from a normal cop who just walks to somebody and just tries to figure them out. Are they going to be trouble? Are they lying to me? They're using those extra senses all the time. So then it would be interesting for maybe an investigator who would arrive on a scene like that, what kind of unseen world is connecting with them, because all of a sudden they look at what's going on and they open up to their own intuition.
Very good statement there. What are they opening up to? They're opening up to a place where there was violent deaths and an unseen world that had a short-term feeding frenzy until the whip was cracked and everybody paid upwards. Okay? And right as everyone was paying upwards, the detective comes on scene. Sometimes within 5 minutes, sometimes within hours, depending on the type of city it is. As he comes on tune, the lower minions have skirtled away, and the new ones, who are more of an authority energy, will be waiting, broadcasting at him their narrative. And is he going to listen to it or create his own narrative? So you may have several different sources, both good and bad, broadcasting a version of the narrative, and they're also broadcasting that version of the narrative to the witnesses.
Yes.
Okay? So this is your whisper campaign group. We'll just give it that name. And then they can, like spiritual social media, whisper to whoever's within listening distance.
And so each family, you can imagine a scenario where everybody's standing out on their front porches, everybody's talking about what just happened. And so many of these different families would have their own unique demonic hauntings and ghosts
and
that are there.
ancestral things coming forward and happening to them in the moment because they're all in traumatized states.
Yeah, and so there's going to be lots of beings that say, "Hang on, this is our feeding," but there are other people saying, "No, you can't. This is ours. This is our territory here."
Thus, why the police come in with both the positive and the negatives. This is why I call it a light dictatorship. Okay. The dark is still going to do the dark stuff, and the light's still going to do the light stuff. But in that moment, they act as the energetic referees so that the feeding frenzy doesn't go ballistic. Okay?
So there'd be groups who kind of go after people who are mourning. Is there any groups that specifically go after people who mourn?
That's a lot of the Jamaican groups will go after people during funerals. And it's an attack on the family's name and power. It's a way to erase them. Like you go to Egypt and you see the faces of the different pharaohs have been scratched out.
Wow.
So then also back in that scenario, you've now got the revenge going as well. So everybody's taken on that energy. The feeding frenzy has happened.
You have a summoning of revenge demons.
Yeah.
Okay, because each individual person has to cross that line from shadow to darkness. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's when the metaphorical Balrog takes over and passes through them, and then imprints upon them the Balrog's power. Now there are badass angel stuff going on at the same time. Okay. But this is where the angels and the demons are working together and have worked together for a very long period of time. And if we were to break it down into an episode of Cops, so my camera, we each have our own camera crew and a person that does an interview. So let's say I go to interview the chief angel who's going to be using a whisper campaign to influence for one way of looking at the case. So, the angel said, these people had it coming. They've avoided death 75 times. They've been on the angel's most wanted list for 400 years, blah, 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 blah. Now the dark side guy is going, hey, these guys just got pulled out of home and it was a lure and a trap. And so they present their side. And then ultimately the cop in the center is going to be faced with those two dissenting ideas in which one voice will win out. And this is where the angels and the demons create a payout system for all the harvestings, which is the resolution of the case, even though nothing may happen or they may never find out who it is. The balance of the karma still comes due, and they're the auditors of that fate.
And is this where, like the Floyd incident where police kind of shoot or anything, is that just like a full takeover of the demons who work with them? When like a police kill? Okay.
It's not always a full takeover. Sometimes that person willingly brings it in, and that's their evolution into the next level of that repetition.
Okay.
But every court case, every ticket has a angel and demon judge on the other side who's balancing karma, because this is all, everything that's from the courts in any way, shape, or form, or from the government is an energetic contract. Okay? And we have to actively deny those energetic contracts. You know, this is right from the sovereign citizen teachings, but this is the sovereign spiritual teachings. Okay? And it's, why would I let them broadcast into me without any limitations? Why should they have direct, you know, command control to take me over? No, I'm not a minion. Okay? So back to that situation, Laura, what else do you think is going on from the ancestral side? If you had five different families affected by this.
Yeah, so I mean, ancestral side is a different frequency, isn't it? To
another layer to observe.
Another layer. So they're coming in I guess, protection of the families that they represent, and you know, depending on how much ancestral connection those families have built up. I don't know. I can't really feel into how much the ancestors would actually step in or get in the frequency of the hunting packs of ghosts.
They would set up spiritual courts of equity and give out warrants for certain entities who are clearly within this contract.
Right. Okay.
Kind of like bounty hunters.
Right. So they can go and haul them into a spiritual court of equity.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Okay. If their lineage has been affected.
Correct. But there's already a contract for every criminal act. There's already a contract, and people say, "What about the law of coincidence?" Is there coincidence in a synchronistic university? Absolutely, there is. Okay, but even within that intricate moment, higher things can be at play, and it still not be something else than what it is. Okay.
So how involved do the ancestors get into this?
Very involved right away, but each group of ancestors from each family is going to come in and put a support and comfort energy in first, as the person's going through whatever they're going to go through, at the recognition of the loss of their loved one, or the carnage that they saw, the trauma, so on and so forth. All these ancestors have been pre-contracted for them to go through that moment. Okay? How they come through it will ultimately determine what the karma does to them. But that begins the karmic protection and repayment process to the crime itself, which happened on a bigger level for another reason.
Right, and is that decided in their spiritual courts of equity?
Usually not to the end of their lives.
Okay, right.
Yeah, usually it's like in football where you have overtime, you have injury time, and at the end there's overtime. The last, that would be like, consider it like that.
So regardless of how much the families are in touch with their ancestors or not, the ancestors will still perform that role. It's just if you were particularly in touch with your ancestors, you'd be able to co-create and work together better.
Or work negatively, like the Haitian games.
Oh, go on.
The Haitian voodoo games, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they would be actively in aggravating the ancestors to go after others.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Yeah. And depending on who your ancestors are.
Right. Well, this
some do and some don't.
This can cause ancestral gang wars.
Okay.
Which is why you begin to see one group try to take territory of another group.
Yeah.
Even though there's a physical territory, there's always the ancestral battles that are going on there. They don't want you to have that street corner. Screw that. They don't want you to have that office building.
Yeah.
Okay. So or that penthouse that one penthouse that looks over everything.
So what can they do within universal law? Can they set up senators of protection, or can they, by universal law?
This is where there becomes an equilibrium in the city itself. Mm. So if we're going to look at a map of the city, it is going to be divided into angelic zones with different shades of gray, dark zones with different shades of gray, completely neutral zones, And then wherever there are schools and other stuff like that, special rules, meaning because demons come and go through schools all the time. Anything that's a public government service open like that. So the demons can get in and out. So there's no actual built-in protection into the architecture.
Airports give me the
Airports,
when
taxi
I go in there.
places, bus centers,
Yeah.
stations, wherever people gather to go move.
But especially in the older buildings, there's all the crests
Yes.
set up above you anyway. Especially, I don't know about the USA, but over here, we've got so many crested entrances, haven't we, guys?
Yeah.
You know, even in schools.
Banks
Banks
probably as well.
especially, but schools, public buildings. Well, you have it too over there, don't you? Your older buildings.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We've got a Tesco's, I think it is, it's near us in Baldock, and it's actually got all of the Egyptian stuff on it. It's got like the pillars and then like Egyptian symbology all across the top of it. I get a strange feeling when I go in there because there's a bank there, you see, as well. So there's a Tesco's bank there, so that you can see all of the spells all on the building. Yeah.
So when the people in the city and they cross over, what percentage, and for life reviews, because do a lot of them don't get a full life review, only short ones?
All right, so let me set up what a life review is so people understand the basics of it. When you die, a life review does not begin right away. In most scenarios, you are going to spend 5 to 6 hours in the confused state. And it's a matter, do you fall into paranoia? As soon as the spirit in the body is disconnected from heart, mind, and gut, and it actually comes out of the body, and there's all of the leftover life force from birth is draining away. And there's a very limited window in which you can go back. Some bodies will drain off this energy very slow so that you have more time in the astral world to potentially make a contract to come back in. Not all bodies do. So if you find yourself even in a body that does, and there's nothing left, and you're fully disconnected, 5 to 6 hours later, you're going to be going through the loss of I amness. And you can see this as a psychic sickness because you have no more body to react to and electrical impulses that validate living in the flesh. Those things are no longer there. This may trigger an ancestral contract for a being to come and visit you, something that you would know from other places and lifetimes, have a motherly energy or a light about them, or just a conversation that stops chaos long enough for you to breathe in the other world and realize I have no lungs to breathe, but I can still simulate it enough to get relaxed. And then to open up, I'm not in my body. What does that mean? And again, the loss of I amness. If I'm not in a body, what am I? And that is what most people are stuck in for the first 10 to 12 hours. If something negative takes over, or if there's a shattering of the soul, that's something that was determined even before the fetus in the womb, that type of ending, because that type of ending sets up the next beginning. So however the end happens, it's contracted to happen that way. And souls will go through a variety of things, from losing I amness to suddenly appearing in an astral city on the other side, because that's their contract. And it's grandmothers and grandfathers and uncles and nephews from other lifetimes who you all recognize and have access to your memories, but you don't know exactly how. And you adapt to that astral city, which can appear to be 5, 6, 7 months, but on this side over here could be 3 to 4 years.
And so, because I remember you speaking about this on one of my private readings when my dad crossed over, that there'll be an aspect of him waiting for me. Does this happen a lot with lots of spirits, that they'll have an aspect waiting in the astral world, but not their full presence there, just an aspect? Yeah.
Yes, an aspect there that guides them to the next cookie of awareness.
Okay.
Does it make a difference how you die? For example, like in this story of the shootout, these guys were probably shot in the back, or just shot. Does the soul want to leave the body quicker? Does it leave it split?
Traumatic injuries, separate of car accidents, violently induced injuries like beating to a pulp, broken bones, All that was to enforce the death contract. So that being was contracted to create that death. That was the karmic, or the coincidence created that karmic resolution. That's another thing to understand. In the being doing the killing, whether they're aware of it or not, there's a contract to cross a line.
And that's the
Does
karmic.
that trauma affect the soul? Absolutely it does. Because it comes on the other side and it doesn't have a body and it doesn't feel the pain, but it should feel the pain. Why doesn't it feel the pain? And then it gets paranoid. And that just accelerates the losing of I ams.
So I wanted to ask a
Until the
question
point
here.
you get disconnected from the story of I am completely. Go ahead.
And so at what point during this does a being become a ghost?
They are a ghost right away. As soon as their life force has left the body and the countdown of getting back in is almost over or over.
And they haven't crossed over, nobody's come to collect them, and they're in a state of confusion and they stay there? Or
No, it depends on the environment. Like hospitals have harvesting beings that have a schedule, just like the nurses do, and they get overwhelmed at times. And sometimes ghosts get backed up before they come and haul them and bring them down to somewhere else and try to tell them what's going on. They may not believe them, or they might believe them, or they start running away from them, and then there's ghosts in the hall, and then they get out, figure out how to get out the front door. Okay, because there isn't enough, organized help.
But can't the ancestors step in here to help them?
At any point in time they can, but again, that side of that nature of that experience was contracted to it for it to happen that way.
Oh, therefore the ancestors can't interfere.
Free will, right? Free will has ended from the death of the body. That's the key.
Right, but contracts still continue. But has karma ended?
No, because free will has ended. A karma, the retribution of the karma is the removal of the free will and it happening that way to set up for the next birth.
Right.
So what difference, so say if you've got an incarnating being to a reincarnating being when they die, what's the difference between the process and when they die?
So the incarnating being, let's say they died a violent death. They would have a rapid regeneration from the trauma of that death, or they would not have any trauma from that death and be able to take it into the next planning situation with revised information of how to not fall back victim to the things that I just beat these last several lifetimes. Advice on planning and preparing. So that's the difference.
So I've been in those situations, Andrew. I'm sure you've done many, where a being has passed and they're in that confused state, and then you can guide them towards the help.
Yes.
But then I've also met many ghosts who are, hundreds of years old, and so what I'm trying to get to is the mechanics of the point where the death process is happening. The soul is leaving, and many people, if they haven't led a spiritual journey, will be, in a slight state of confusion. At what point does the soul cross over or wander as a ghost?
So now we're talking the separation of the photonic light that came into a seed and egg technology, who's no longer in a seed and egg technology, with the consciousness of that original seed and egg that entered the seed and egg, leaves the seed and egg, but leaves an imprint in the seed and egg, which goes on. So the higher soul leaves the egg, but the imprints in it go on and finish the journey in the astral world.
Right.
So at what point does it do that? When the chemical repetition is attempting to be infinite, meaning it's infinite self-torture, caught up in demonic realms. So that means the soul leaves and the rest of the ancestors come in and begin the disentangling from the negative to regain the soul shards and pull them back over.
And how aware are these a ghost like that? Because I've never actually really stopped to really try to talk to one, but they seem to just be stuck in a trauma, many of them, or a repetition of some kind.
So those are forever going to be low-level ghosts.
And
what it is something in the area hasn't figured out, or has figured out, it will use them in a way into their advantage. It can dislodge them from their repetition place and relodge them into another place. It'll just get pissed off and try to come back. But that might be part of the manipulating being's need. Get you out long enough to get somebody into the space to trust it, and then your ass comes back in, and I have misery.
Yeah, and I've come across so many spirits that used to live in a property, or their family members lived in a property. They don't anymore. There's new families living in the property, and they poltergeist the families because they're saying, you shouldn't be here. This is not your house. This is not your house. I come across that a lot.
And those are people who couldn't refuse to cross over and accepted being a spirit, who now begin the journey as I am a ghost. And the more ways I learn to harvest energy from the unseen world without anyone knowing, and the more ways I can harvest energy from the seen world and be known, and make manifest in the field world, I can live on indefinitely. It's a very easy thing as a ghost to come to terms with.
Right, and they're always angry.
And there's
No,
a
it's
few.
not about angry. Well, sometimes they're really happy. It's the anger for how much they have to plan ahead of time to make sure the incoming of energy is more than the outgoing.
Yeah, and when they know the game's up, when they absolutely know the game's up, then they always soften.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they have no energy left. Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember I think I was probably about 11 years old. I literally woke up on the top of my bunk bed, and it felt like a contract. I woke up, looked out into the hallway, and there's a little girl just walked past, and I could just see her floating through. So would that be like a spirit? Does people have spiritual contracts with ghosts for them? You know,
that was a setup in your dream world, and yes, a part of a bigger spiritual contract
Okay.
to influence you that there's a spirit world, and is anybody going to believe me now?
Literally, it's like I woke up at like 5 a.m. My brother was in bottom bunk, and I looked out, and it was as clear as day. A little girl just drifting past, and I was like, "Oh, hi."
Yeah. So I had one, Dale, and this is before this journey started for me properly. There was these little triggers into that. There's definitely another world out there, and I definitely can experience it. But I was in bed. I was at my in-laws' house, and a woman was standing in the middle of the night at the door saying the Lord's Prayer into the bedroom. You know, and in that sub-sleep state, I just thought it was her mum, but I realised her mum probably doesn't even know the Lord's Prayer. And then I figured out what it was, and the energy just came at me like that. But you know, it may seem scary, but they're trigger moments, aren't they? You can't deny that. You may not be able to convince others of it, but you can't deny that in yourself. Andrew, still there?
And that's it.
I'm here. Sorry about that. I had to switch devices.
Okay.
So, and you tell people, the best one is when you tell people about ghost stories and they believe you. Then after 2 minutes, their ego comes in, they don't believe you anymore. It happens all the time. I tell my granddad or my mum, and then they're like, "Oh wow!" Then 3 minutes later, they don't believe me.
So many people do feel it. So many people do have the awareness of it.
And then the ghost wins when that actually happens.
Yes.
When you don't believe after that ghost story, it's on. It's like, I'm going to get you.
Yeah.
You don't believe in me, bitch. I'm coming.
Exactly.
So you're saying all the good ghosts pass on properly, so all we've got left stuck in the astral is the ones who are lost?
No, there are ones that are definitely know exactly what they are, but they just don't care no more.
Okay.
Usually because there's something inside them that's not ready to face the truth of what they've done. Like, let's say they're just a miserable, melancholy person. Woe is me. Those will usually get sucked up really fast. But then you get someone like the Daryl Brooks guy, the sovereign citizen, defending against the 72 people he ran over with a car and 6 he killed. Okay. That's a classic person who won't pass over because they couldn't accept it in the physical. But they get a new lease on life in the non-physical. No cops. Wait a second. I can be egotistically free here and do whatever I want with no interference until they realize there's a bigger game out there. And they've been a part of that game for a long time. They know how it works. Alive or dead, it's the same game. Instead of cash, it's blood.
A demon.
Yeah. They become a demon. That's their goal. To not be a lowly plebeian ghost.
So say a tsunami, Andrew, and all those spirits which have basically been lost, are they contracted to be lost? And why doesn't their ancestors come in and help them? You know, those tsunamis and you just get shitloads of thousands of spirits just, yeah.
So I want to add this because you said tsunami. In actual natural hurricanes and tsunamis and disasters like that, the old ghost worlds take tremendous damage to their infrastructure. When, like, let's say when New Orleans flooded for days, for actually months in a row before they actually able to clean up some of the streets, those ghosts had nothing to feed on. And an entire 3 generations of ghosts was wiped out from that. But another new generations of ghosts were created from the misery after it.
Yeah.
Okay. And the ghosts that evacuated survived. Think about it. The ghosts that evacuated survived. They have a self-generated survival instinct. And they absolutely have a culture we can't see, but is layered throughout our perceptions, if you can know how to look.
So when you say wiped out, do you mean that they've gone back to the astral world and the other side?
They got pushed onto the other side. The hurricane itself, the natural disaster itself, because there was nobody moving through the cities in high volumes, they couldn't tithe up, and all the energy dried up. There was no energy to feed on.
So how long would like an energy last if you look at the World War II beaches of northern France?
Oh, that's still haunted as fuck.
Yeah, because
It
all
will
the
be for centuries
cemeteries
to
are
come.
there.
Yeah, it'll be for centuries to come. Yeah.
Yeah.
And why does a place like Beijing and Paris, why are those particular the most haunted areas in the world? Is there any
Because of all the secret societies that have come and gone and left their taint.
Okay.
Whether it's good, bad, neutral, indifferent, taint is taint. And how can you have a neutral taint? Very carefully. You take something that was already tainted and you neutralize it. Is there taint left in it? No, but it's still taint. That's the original thing until you alchemize it into something different. Okay. It's not the natural organic background of the environment. That organic environment is completely manipulated to an unnatural state.
So I've got a question, which is a question for me, and I know a lot of people would like to know the answer to this, because I know you talked about your Egypt trip and you going into that museum. What, for people out there who want to go to museums still, what would you recommend as some of the things to do so it's not as harsh for when they go in there? Because I haven't been to one in years because I keep thinking I don't want to fucking go in there.
Okay. If people don't know my Egypt story, let me just say it. I had an opportunity to do a trip, 15 or 16-day tour down the Nile, full service, everything, backdoor access everywhere. And part of the tour was we're going to do a day at the Egyptian Museum, get to go and see everything. Now, we had already done the Nile 3 or 4 days, Karnak, so we'd seen a bunch of places. And so many of those places are just so demonically haunted, it's ridiculous. When you have 50 million people a year coming to see those sites, you can only imagine the shit that shows up there. Okay? And demonic shit, all trying to compete. So I had already dealt with that. And then as we were going closer and closer to the museum, I get this foreboding energy inside me of don't go in there. Don't go in there. And my stomach going, and people can hear it. Okay. And then the burping starts. If you know me personally, like when I'm diffusing energy, I'll burp, and sometimes minutes and minutes and minutes, not just something I'm creating. Okay. That burp comes and I'm still kilometers away. Me knowing this, I realize I am probably not going to be able to handle this. And so I start dosing the people. If I can't make it, you guys go ahead. And they're like, why can't you make it? Let's just say there's some things in there that I don't want to see and they don't want to see me.
How long did you
along those lines?
How long did you stay in? Was it 15 minutes?
15 minutes. And I had to run to find the exit. Okay. And it was so fucking hot and stomach turning. I get a bottle of water. I'm outside and there's this place to sit down. And this guy sits down next to him and I look at him and he looks at me. And we were exact fucking twins of each other. Twins of each other. and he works there.
I would have loved to have seen the video of that on CCTV of Andrew just doing one.
So I tell him who I am, and he tells me who I am. He's like, "Oh, you're on one of these spiritual tours." Yeah, I'm a Galactic Historian. He goes, huh? And then he leaves, and maybe 2.5, 3 hours go by before I see the first person. No. About 45 minutes, I see the first person come through who also couldn't handle it. And then it was about 2 more hours before the rest made it out.
Was there anything specific in there, Andrew? Was it just a mixture of all of the magical objects in there and the haunting of the area? And was it something specific?
It's everything and specific things too. Because there
a
are
lot.
specific things that just beat the shit out of all the other energies in there. They're just so light years behind it. And if it wants you, it'll go through whatever it wants to go through to get to you.
Mhm.
And where I was at the outside gate, I would watch things come out attached to other people, like who shouldn't have stayed in. Okay. And then I'm watching this entire culture of shit going in and out. And I'm like, what's attached to me? I just saw my twin. Fuck this. Okay.
Yeah, that's
I got
crazy.
away from this shit. Okay. And then as people started coming back out, my twin came back out, and people like, huh? Yeah, that's my twin. Meet him.
So say somewhere like the Louvre, because I went to the Louvre probably about 10, 11 years ago. So would it be kind of when I was going through there, like there's lots of Atlantis stuff, Egyptian stuff. So is it basically when the DNA activates and you have those triggers, you're basically like a high feeding energy for something to come in again?
So let's rate it like this. It's the amount of million of people a year who go through the place that will determine how truly bad it is. So let's say you find a museum in a mid-range city that only the local population and maybe a few out-of-towners go to. That's still a big amount of people, but it's not 20 million, is it? Okay. So there are many museums you can go to that are just not haunted, like that one. Okay. Yeah, it's just crazy. And then there are other sacred sites that have an absolute pecking order of who's in charge in the unseen world there. I saw that all throughout Egypt, and you had to literally pay your tax to get in, seen and unseen.
And is that
So
what like?
there-
So go ahead, mate.
Sure. So I was going to say, on the note of crime, are there anything from the past that's still affecting us now? So from back in those, I'll just sort this out. So, we have crime the way we have it now. Obviously, crime has always been a thing. And how is it affecting us now? Some of the more ancient types of energies, are they still involved in the crime now?
Well,
I mean,
we
how long
obviously
does it-
we have crime families all over the world, don't we?
And time travel?
Well, let's just separate it. We have crime families all over the world. Every culture has their own versions of it, from legal to illegal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if every culture on the surface of the world has it, what does that say about the totality of the surface culture of this world?
Yeah.
Criminality is a significant impact on its overall perception.
Yeah.
Because the few can create great negativities, and you still have a huge volume of the few who are criminal. Okay. And then you have the bankers. What makes them any different than the cartel makers?
There is no difference, really.
There's no difference.
Yeah.
So
Therefore, you have all these different crews and cultures and versions of the same thing done at different karmic retribution scales.
So is that what, like Glastonbury, for instance, is that just basically that's a crazy place for ghosts, is it? Because I went there and I stayed there one night. I didn't want to stay the next night. I ended up going to Cornwall instead. Really eerie place. I was like, fucking hate this. Don't like this place.
Didn't get blown out your bed then. I did.
So let me describe this. So I've used this about a variety of places. So in the past, I would say Sedona is the Las Vegas of sacred places. You never know what you're going to get, and the house always wins. The same thing with Mount Shasta. You never know what you're going to get, but the house always wins. When you're looking at something like Glastonbury itself, it's not just a casino. It's a theme park attached to it, like a Disneyland of ghosts who lure you into their parlor of tricks and have tents in the astral world set up to lead you down the path of what they want you to believe in. Think of it like a giant reverse psychic negative fair. And you have no idea you're walking through it.
While all the love and lighters skip barefoot down the streets, thinking they're great.
And that's Glastonbury.
Yeah.
But that can be the same thing. Byron Bay in Australia. Any of those super hippie spiritual places that have had that will have that imprint on it. Burning Man, yep.
And I remember you saying about Burning Man how negative it is to the land and the ancestors.
Oh God, yeah.
They get so pissed off.
You have no idea how pissed off they are every time they come.
It makes
Everyone just
sense,
comes and does
doesn't it?
drugs and
Yeah.
brings all their shit with them and dumps all their energy there on the land.
Yes,
We're
Burning
gonna
Man is a
roast-
huge harvesting station. Yes.
Yeah.
Equivalent to like those giant cattle calls where they just open up the meat plant and they kill 10,000 cattle in 24 hours.
Wow.
Eh? Imagine that. 10,000 animals dead in 24 hours, all completely processed bone, meat, everything.
Yeah.
Plastic bagged and frozen.
Yeah.
Well, we're at a point. Do we want to take in some callers?
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah.
So has anybody
Yeah,
got any
we're
spooky
halfway
stories or
through.
any scary stories of your interactions with ghosts or demons?
Oh, hold on, Laura. What was the other thing we were supposed to bring up today before callers?
No, that was it.
Okay.
It was their spooky tales.
Their
That was-
spooky tales, criminal
yeah,
spooky
their-
tales, stuff
their
like that. Yeah.
scri- yeah. That was what we wanted to do today, really.
Well,
Open.
if you would like to raise your hand and come on and share a spooky criminal story or a ghosty story with us for our Halloween special, you can go down to the more button or click reactions and go raise the hand. And we will bring you on for a call to talk to us.
Or if they have a question, because there's loads of questions in the chat we haven't got to. So if you want to ask one of them now, come on.
Right.
Here we go.
Oh, we got some hand raised.
Yes.
So let's go with Sarah. I've sent you a signal to unmute.
Wow, how cool
Yes,
is all of this? Oh my
you're
goodness.
welcome. You
Good
made it.
afternoon to everybody. I made it. So did yes, I did. Thank you. Thank you.
What did you think of the show so far?
Oh my goodness. I'm taking notes. I am so excited. It's like coming into class that I have been visualizing for so long. Oh, what a ride. Hello. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween to
Happy
you too. We
Halloween.
And to you,
figured we'd give
Sarah.
we'd give you the little tapas meal, Spanish tapas meal of what the astral spiritual criminal world's like.
Oh, fantastic. I've
Tapas
got
meal.
some dark
Yep.
beer. I've already got my ocean vodka and cranberry going on right here. Oh my goodness. Thank you all.
You're welcome. Would you like to turn on your video?
No, I really wouldn't.
It's okay.
Got something in the background you don't want us to see.
You're hiding a ghost there.
I'm not kidding. Seriously, folks, just on the October 9th, I was privileged to, please pardon the tears, but it's going to happen here. I was privileged to escort my husband to the Blue Road of ancestors that have supported me until now. And I know that he and I had issues, but part of this experience was to help transmute all of the experiences, the electricity that we have generated to a point so that we can come to these perfect moments of acknowledging all of the support that we have had from our ancestors, good, bad, the criminals, the angels, and breath by breath, we get to build the new world. Yeah, and having him on the other side, no matter what we transitioned here in the physical, is I'm going to count that as an ally.
Good.
That's my choice. Every breath is my choice. And even those things that were triggers from previous, that's what you've been teaching us, Andrew. That's what you have been helping culminate. And Maty and Laura and Dale and Sean and Santos, everybody that is showing up here today is wow, what a freaking ride. Talk about tsunami, getting back up on that surfboard right now. I keep falling off and keep getting back on, paddling out. It's an amazing time that we're sharing right now. So to have you bring in the criminal aspect just here in Halloween, what an honor.
Thank you.
And I get to be first caller. What?
Yeah.
So can I ask you a question? So what was
Absolutely, Maty.
have you crossed other beings over before?
Oh yes. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
what was the
and I don't
experience
know.
like? How was he?
How was he? Oh my God, he had this beautiful death rattle. So peaceful and easy. Our 18-year-old son and our 12-year-old young man were perfectly synchronistically in there. It was funny. Okay, you want something sick and funny? Okay. After he passed, my oldest and I, we looked at him and go, did you record his death rattle? No, I wish I would have, but it was rude. I thought it was rude. So okay, so all these judgments that we've had from history. Yeah. And so tonight we are going to go to a trunk or treat at the mortuary where his body is being currently held. Okay, we're going to go trick or treat at the mortuary. Yeah, okay. And what kind of criminal behavior? You know what? I can tell you that one of his favorite things was cocaine. He wanted to have cocaine before he died. We just didn't get it to him. But I tell you, towards the end of his life here, I asked him, so do you want your pain meds? Nah. We shared a cup of yogurt and watched a movie together. And yeah, here we are right now.
And the great honor you have done for crossing them over and then sharing it with us too.
Thank you.
Because it's going to remind so many other people out there the courage that is needed in the moment.
Amen. Thank you one and all for allowing me to participate in this.
So
This
we have
moment right here.
we have an interesting scenario here, Andrew, where it completely fits in with what we've been talking about, both facets of it. So when you have somebody who's a heavy user of cocaine and they come to that moment of passing and all the process we just discussed, Sarah's family and that, you can hear the way that she's bringing humor into it as well. It's a way of processing and transmuting it. And so how much does that affect in the unseen world there, that process? How big is it to have those loved ones with you at that moment of death?
Huge, because they replaced the cocaine.
Yeah.
Amen. Oh, thank you so much.
Replaced it.
I'm so sorry, but the external validations, I thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Wondered, is it all going to be worth it? Yes. Yes. To maintain that love and escort that individual with whatever demons they came with, whatever demons we brought to the party, whatever angels we brought to the party.
They had nothing on you. Don't worry.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. It was just part of I realized it was part of a spiritual contract that I created. And I remember creating it back when I was roughly 9 years old. And for some reason,
another Claire comes out about why criminality in the show, and then you crossing them over too.
Could you repeat that for me? I talked over you. I'm sorry.
So there's layers that this show connects to people, and you're just showing the different layers in which it connected to you. Just for the criminality. Yeah, all the different things that validated for you to be here.
Yeah. And you know what? I gotta send props out to all those folks that I may not be even seeing, but have affected through you, Andrew. I was just watching Martina's Earth Nouveau on the soul intimacy, if I'm getting that right, and the copulation without the beyond the physical, bringing this all together back from, the vagus nerve. And I wanted to ask you a question, if I may.
Sure.
The belly button in the waist region, and it seems that a thread through all of your conversations, when we come back to the colonics and all that kind of stuff, and we talk about waste management. We are all processing waste. Everything we consume, we have to convert that to an expression, a waste product, yeah?
Yep. And so do you do colonic, Sarah?
I have yet. I'm preparing for a colonic. I have a fantastic recommendation. I work for an apothecary, and yeah, so I'm preparing by taking tinctures, and what a beautiful opportunity I have with this grief to collect.
So
and
it's
go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. I find it's much better to do it yourself. I mean, for a lot of people, they go to these places and they can be quite expensive. But the beauty of doing it yourself is that you get to manage the water that you use. And so this is a chance to put the revocations, the prayers into the water that's going to be going into you. The main revocations and some of the more extended ones, they work perfectly as long as you put your own imprint in there as well.
Excellent. So collect the water.
Do you think that would be something maybe you'd be able to do?
I've got myself set up as a beginner kit, and I haven't invested in the Kalima board, but funny, I grew up with a gal whose stepdad, that's what he created, was plastic form-fitting Kalima boards.
Well,
for folks that, yeah.
Just so you know, just going and doing a colonic professionally gives you a lot of introspection of how it's actually done and takes a lot of the guesswork out.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that, and I have to gift that it's going to be free to me.
Because learning. Okay, I'm a champion of a Kalima board. Like I can do a 5-gallon bucket in an hour and 40 minutes.
So practice,
20
right?
minutes. Yeah.
Practice.
Yeah. Okay. And then self-insertion, and then knowing your true limits. Am I filled? No. Most of the time you're not. Yeah.
I do think excellent. This is perfect. This is the advice that I'm looking for. So if I start with the professional, then I at least get a sensation with somebody who's experienced and can help guide me through the process. And she's got color light therapy, and I've got so much. Andrew, you have no idea how blessed I as a soul am. Maybe you do. It's all good.
I do.
But I do.
When are you going to start your colonics?
I'm not quite sure yet.
Okay, for your best result, if you really want to do your best result, and you're intending to learning to do it at home, go do two. You start with you're going to do 2 colonics just so you understand the mechanical process, and then trust yourself enough what is filling up and what is not. Because the hardest thing about a Kalima board is when your ass is in the dome and your legs are up in the air and you've got your filler button and you're not sure if you're filled or not, and you just don't relax enough to let it go up and up and up, so that when the purging happens, it's natural, and then the hose doesn't pop out of you at the same time. Otherwise, you're going to spend another 10 minutes to try to get it back together. That's the hardest part about that journey. Once you cross that over, you learn to fill yourself up enough that it starts actually getting into some of the upper parts of the lower intestinal tract, and that they're going to become to a point where gas is going to be created and all sorts of stuff, because petrified stuff is being exposed to the water. Okay. And then the starting of peristalsis. So a lot of people get cramps right away.
Right. So that can be painful.
Yeah. You got to start doing early stomach massage to get the peristalsis.
What point? in relationship to my belly button, where should that massage begin? Should I use 3 fingers? Should I use fists? What would you recommend, and where on
all of the things, because what you're breaking down are psychic cysts.
Do I start in my sternum? Do I start over at the what's that little bag
how
called?
big are your breasts?
I'd roughly say C cup.
Okay, just forgive this word. Are they saggers or siders or pointers?
No, we're heading towards saggers because we're in.
Okay, you need to start higher up. You need to start up higher up in the neck, just under the mastoid bone, the bone underneath the ear,
where that begins to do the drag.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Got to start higher up. Yeah.
No, perfect. Yeah. Okay. So like start with my thumbs underneath my earbone, underneath my earlobes.
Work down the neck and then into the collarbone. And there are certain places like right just where the edge, like halfway at the collarbone, there'll be a little indent that is hard. And then as you keep pushing on it, the hardness breaks up and it hurts really bad all throughout the collarbone.
Yes. And yes, it's like
you got to break all that down or the sternum will never release.
Okay.
So then you go down the sternum. Okay.
All right.
And then from the sternum, you're translating from mostly skeletal work and skeletal reduction into the flesh of the outer stomach flesh, stomach fat, all that stuff there before it gets to the organs. Okay, and this is where it switches into myofascial. This is where the myofascial release has to come in yourself preparing of it.
Okay, give me a second just to make my final connection with the bones, because now I've been working on the marrow as well. Mm-hmm. So should I add in here at that time, like using my breath, or?
Well, you should always be in a breath in a breathing state. When you're doing this stuff. Deep breathing.
All right. So I'm ready to move the flesh. Yeah.
So from the I've been doing colonics just under 10 years, and from my start journey of the first time I went, and what helped me throughout them was I always did some rounds of breath work before. So I literally went into that colonic really loose, and they were so much more stronger. A lot more came out when I did those rounds of breath work before.
Okay, and does it depend on, should I consult whether I'm Vata, Kapha, Pitta, any of those kinds of things, and how much water I should have before I go in so that all my cells are hydrated or not?
So real quick, 9 times out of 10, anybody that comes to the colonic is going to come in water deficient already. That's why you want to go and have your first one done by a pro. They'll make sure that if they have to go overtime, that it's not you just sucking up the water, but there's actually shit coming out. Okay.
Yeah, I trust it. My gal would do that.
So the next level here is once you're massaging the stomach, and you're going to do the entire breadth of the stomach wherever that you would think that the washboard abs are. To get in deep there. Okay.
That hurts.
All right. And then you need to make it down to the waistline where the where the femur is coming in, and then follow it down to the pubic bone.
Okay. Funny, it's a Sagittarius moon. Ha ha ha.
Okay. That will be a complete that will be a complete frontal release, which will be the best thing for your colonic. Now, there are other people that can use fascial rollers. Like, ever seen those things that you roll on legs like this, up and down?
The knobby ones?
Sometimes like knobby, sometimes not. It's all going to be can you handle it or not, because it will absolutely affect what's shooting out.
Right. Well, what about like a rolling pin?
You could use a rolling pin, knobby ones, unknobbing ones. That's all up to you. You can even just get a vibrating pad and stick it on your stomach and put your hands on it. So it's more vibration to the lower, or much more vibration to the higher.
Okay, and then what about colors? Because I've been working with how the purple starts at the pineal and then drips to the sacrum and the orange, and then getting the red go back up.
In your first couple, don't worry about that. Just worry about the mechanics. And then when you're ready to do your 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th colonic, you can do a full color bath from crown to root every time you fill up and let out. So let's say let's say you've done enough colonics where you're ready to start your own personal mental color therapy. The water coming into you is a color, and you see it filling up your intestinal tract and going through the vessels, through the central nervous system, to the brain, and then to the crown. And then when it's ready to release, the crown is flushing down its version of purple to go out also.
Awesome. How cool.
Right.
Okay.
And then the
Okay.
same thing for each color of each chakra. You're flushing each chakra out. And you can make this very intricated. You could even have contract revocations, before, during, and after the flushing. That's specific to the crown, specific to the third eye, specific to the heart, the solar plexus, so on and so forth.
Okay, so I have okay, let's just combine those two. I have another question.
Mhm.
How do we bring that criminal aspect back in? How do we flush that so that we can take the fantastic reality that it offered us? Because I mean, I look at the mafia and I have romantic ideas,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Right. And we look at, oh God, forgive me. The word vampires just has to come in there. Oh, bloodsuckers. There's romanticism that we've grown into. How do
Sure.
we flush the shit and then keep the really good part that does support
Don't
us?
buy into the fantasy. That's the first thing. And then when you don't buy into the fantasy, what do you see? Just a bunch of salesmen.
Not even that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Definitely.
Once you've reduced them to salesmen, they become irrelevant to your greater reality unless they're forcing relevance on you.
Ouch.
And when they're irrelevant to your greater growth, you can take the best aspects of them with you.
Okay.
Because they're still irrelevant to your greater growth.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. And just let them be.
Well, if they start purposely interacting with you with the acts of temptation, and then you have a different moral code there, choice.
Oh, okay. And then we talk about flipping frequencies. What's going to be a good balance for that? You said irrelevancy.
Yes, your perception of them and how their perception affects you must have irrelevant factors to it. You apply irrelevancy to them. Yeah, you apply irrelevancy to them, which reduces their power to nothingness.
Yes. How do you call it? Infinite minus zero?
Reduced to zero minus infinity.
Reduced to zero minus infinity.
Infinity. Yeah.
Oh God, Andrew, thank you so much for.
That's part of compressing an energy. Like oftentimes when I'm really dealing with some really, really dense and darkies that won't go away, I basically put them in a giant hydraulic press and compress them down to a 1 inch by 1 inch cube that'll take 1,000 years for them to get out of.
Nice,
that's my warning to them, that don't come back, or I'm going to make you into a cube and throw you in the ocean. You'll never get out.
Awesome. Oh, red coral. Can I ask you about red coral?
Yes, but we want to take on another caller. We got to get to another
Awesome.
caller. Thanks a lot.
You just let me go. Thank you so much. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween to you too.
Bye.
Halloween.
Bye.
Let's bring on the Bibbinator, Sean, the man Bibby.
Hello, ghouls and gremlins.
Hello, gremlins and ghouls. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. It's been a fun show.
What do you think so far?
Well, it just interest, very high velocity, talking about the ghosts and the crime industry. And then Sarah chimed in with the grieving, moving over energy, which is just always so dare I say grounding, because it's just so, it's such a universal experience that we haven't experienced it in this life. We've definitely experienced it in many others. But
it pushes you straight into the body, doesn't it? It pushes you straight into the body when you have an experience like that, straight into it.
Yeah, it's like you can get to a point without the trauma, but it's almost like that emergency state. But it just gets your focus. It's like, oh, and that heaviness sinks in, but like not necessarily in a bad way, but kind of like a serious energy. But it's nice to hear that, break that up with like the morgue, going and trick-or-trunking, was it?
At the morgue,
yeah.
Trick-or-trunking, no, out the trunk of a car.
Oh, right. Oh, there we are. I've heard trick-or-drinking, but not trick-or-drunking. But wow.
So did you have any ghosty stories? Did you have any ghosty stories for us?
Yeah, like ghosty stories, because I was thinking about like ghosts and dreaming. because this is just a real powerful one that's like just hit me lately. And I'm just really, really curious about it. Like what's all involved in the whole situation. But like in a lot of my dreams, I get killed a fuckload. Like different violent scenarios, and like not all the dreams are bad. Some of them are good dreams, but some of them are super violent.
Did you have a group of friends that like to play first-person shooters earlier in your life?
Yeah, like when the Xbox Live came out.
That's probably you still dreaming with them.
Uh-huh.
A good
Like
portion
Halo.
of that, a good portion of, like, even though you do not play with them or even talk to them anymore, when you shared really good times, you shared unique video game dream space. And you might just sing yourself getting fragged in the dream, but it's still cool because you're going to frag them back in the next respawn.
Yes, yeah, yeah, because we definitely played Halo. We played COD.
Yeah.
We played RPGs, ones that we got right into.
That's probably what that is. Doesn't mean it is only that, but you're not taking paranoia and fear out of it. There was an aspect of it that was relieving and fun to you at the same time, right?
Oh yeah, and that's why this is so like just interesting, because I had one of my strongest dream experiences that I've ever had. And it was like compressed time, but it wasn't it wasn't the best of experiences. Because like it had this like leading build up with your space cat. And then like I bought Tony Rodriguez's book all about like the secret space program. And like it was pretty interesting because I like learning about the other
you got caught in their story.
Yeah, because it was like his story, but I dreamed it and I woke up, but I experienced it. Like I full on got traumatized over and over. Like I got months of traumatization in the dream that felt like minutes. And then I woke up and I was broken, like just full on broken. And I was like, oh my gosh. And like it went on for a bit. And I was like, wow, like that was just.
Let's take a pause for a second. Yes. What you went through, tens of thousands, in fact, millions of other people who have never been exposed to Rodriguez's work have had that happen. What did it do to you? It unlocked something inside you of extreme unknowingness that created a paranoia that had no target because it was all beyond unknown to you. Unfortunately, this is how the conspiracy world cracks people. You survived it, didn't you?
Yeah, it was pretty, coming out of it.
Did it change you?
Oh, absolutely.
In what way?
Well, it kind of solidified my, oh, fuck, these kind of experiences are real kind of thing. Because I woke up, I was like, I've never felt that before. I've never woken up from a dream consciously that I remember.
You had a what the fuck dream moment.
Yeah, it was like so many things. It was compressed time. It was probably the first time I really, really experienced compressed time. And we just like, what just happened? That was like months, but then it was a second. And I came out of it fully dilated and back grounded into this.
This does not make Tony evil at all. No. It's
cool.
I just wanted to make this sure. Tony is a presenter multidimensionally. And Sean, and everyone else that reads his book has an individual contract spread throughout many different space and time locations to be triggered by it. Why? We don't really know the bigger reasons why, nor does Tony either. It's how multidimensional communication through spirits and souls works when it's not time-based and relevant. Because that book's going to remain in infamous state for a very long period of time. And people from the future are reading it right now and having the same trigger that he's going, and they're like, how did it happen? Just like, why did my contract revocations reach out to people? It was something that nonlinear souls could attach to through the colloquial now to create these higher experiencing purposes or higher experiencing journeys.
So there's two ways I want to fork this. But just one is to tie it to this. So like there's obviously ghosts and demons that are corralling people who aren't ready for these experiences or not really contracted them, or low level contracts into this kind of stuff in their complete unawareness. And then part of like reading the Akashic record, like, it's all experiential based.
Mhm.
So do you got to go through that experiential based thing every time you go into the Akashic record?
Me?
Yeah.
No,
No.
there's no
But
barrier.
just that you've done it sometime, like
No,
to go through the
there's never been a barrier there, unless I put it there because I was anxious about overlooking at a subject matter and self handicapping situations, because I knew if I moved too fast, the people around me wouldn't work. There's never been barriers there. Even the ones that I created aren't really barriers. There's just strongly worded suggestions to me.
Post-it notes.
Yes.
No, caution here. Slow your rope, bud.
Exactly. Even jank the chain every now and then too.
Yeah, and but I've heard you say before, like it's experiential based. Can you go into that a little bit?
Is this an experience between us?
Yes.
How big is this experience between us?
Depends how much weight I put onto it right now.
What about everyone else's experience? Is it added to this weight?
It's yes and no.
Yeah. What about
Like-
people who are listening to this 50 years from now?
Absolutely.
Okay. What about people who are listening to this 200 years in the past?
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah. What if somebody's listening to it and they're in another universe?
Yeah, it's still
Every
adding to
experience
the mass.
every experience is its own unique experience in which we give it valuation, and then all the other realms value the valuation.
Mhm.
It then compresses throughout the layers of observation, which determine how important a moment in time and space is. Celestial mechanics. There you go.
Yeah, they're pretty wild. So, Call of Duty, everyone. Online video games, because we've all heard how many ghosts and demons are inside of that.
There's
Did
plenty
you-
of ghosts and demons inside video games too.
The new one's out today,
like
isn't it?
lots.
Mhm.
Because it was fun though, but and it's funny because lately I've been wanting to, I haven't played video games much in a long time, but I've been wanting to actually play again because I remember how much fun
Yeah.
we had.
Especially when you had a crew of people, just ripping on each other, and it was just one-liner after one-liner and frag after
Yeah.
frag and after evil kill, rampage 9, whatever it was.
Yeah, I've been following this contagious laughter videos too, and so many of them are video game ones too,
Mhm.
and it just reminds you how much you just choke up laughter
Mhm.
when you're with your buds online, because you never know what's going to happen. It really is like a romping field.
All right, Sean, let's let you go. We're gonna bring on another call. We got a bunch of people got their hands raised here.
Hey, Sean.
And good stuff, guys.
Cheers,
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks,
Take care,
Sean.
bro.
Let's see. Who should we bring on next?
The other Sean.
Okay, the other Sean. S-Band. Signal to unmute.
Hello.
Hi,
Ooh.
Sean.
How's it going?
It's going good. Thanks for asking. I'm happy that you're doing this. I like the theme. I think it's been a great show. Yeah.
Are we going to
That's-
see you today, Sean?
I tried opening the video and it said unable to. Yeah, twice. I know. It said no.
Try again.
There you go.
Now it's saying yes.
So did we get you spooky stories today?
They are spooky stories. It did not spook me. Once I got into the whole the concept of the 8 pagan divisions of the year about 27 years ago, it completely defused the spookiness of Samhain or November 1st.
Mhm.
And it kind of became my favorite, most sacred time of the year. And on top of it, I came with, not much, but very lighthearted stories of I went to a spiral dance and they said, and afterwards you might see a loved one who's passed over because the veils are the thinnest this time of year. And I did. It was my my beloved little dog.
Aw.
And Yeah, we were hanging out and cuddling, and of course I woke up the moment that I was like, wait a minute, aren't you dead? And she visited like a bunch of times over the years. So that's one story.
I see ghost dogs quite a lot. I don't know, maybe they might be ancestor dogs actually rather than ghost dogs, but quite
Nice.
often see dogs come running around in the unseen.
Nice.
But does that mean they're stuck?
And sometimes it's when, if I'll be talking to a person and then they've got an animal that they've lost, one that's in their family that's been loved, that might show up. There's one time I was at a campsite and there was one just running around. So maybe they're just on those lands, lived on those lands, died on those lands. I don't know.
I get them all the time in psychic surgery sessions, like
Yeah,
dogs just running around or cats or something.
Another one was like I had a horrible lifetime with my dad, but we made peace as he was dying, and I helped cross him over the last 9 months, especially the last month he was alive, and we basically became like best friends. So it was super sweet. And then I saw him a bunch, like, you know, a number of times afterwards in my dreams.
Yeah, visitations, those are awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, thanks for calling in. We only got a few minutes left in the
My
show.
pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm loving
Thanks, Sean.
the show.
Thank you, Sean.
Look, I'm on my other device. I can't pick the callers, so one of you guys pick the next callers.
So we'll have Martin.
Martin, yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
We
where are you
can.
calling from?
I'm from Germany.
Germany.
Cool.
Do you want to turn on your video?
Yes, I can. There I am. A little bit more light.
There we go.
There we go. Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
So what do you think of today's show so far?
Well, for a moment, it scared the shit out of me.
Yes. Woo.
Then I was suddenly in my body. Man. Yeah. I don't know if you can remember me, Andrew. Like, I had so many crazy stories going on. Like, yeah, a lot of fantasies, and came to a point where I didn't know what was going on in the last days. Were
you the one that I
crazy.
told to do something on your rooftop?
No, I was the dude you told me to paint with the two sets of canvases and dance between it. And I just did it like last week.
How did it work?
It was amazing. Like, I did it in an open space, and I'm still in a stage where I find it easier to accept just that I don't know what the fuck is going on, and just try to.
And in that state of going back and forth between the two paintings, you can exert more control over the lack of control, because you're the one who has to walk and then take over and do the next one, cognified, even though there's a drive to do it.
Yeah.
No.
Was weird, but
There's
amazing.
many ways to take control of your reality. Do you have any spooky stories to share for us?
Oh yeah, I could tell like the story that freaked the shit out of myself and taught me a big lesson over the last days, and still is kind of like when you were talking about the stories, I was like, woo, please not. Like, I stopped smoking weed, and then I don't know, like 2 weeks ago, it came over me, and I was like, come on, fuck it, I gotta celebrate all the crazy shit that I survived, like my own shit basically. And the dude where I got the weed from, that was a big lesson for me. Like, I always was scared of him, and I always had this kind of belittling myself when people even just raised their voice a bit. I was like, ooh, well, crazy. And and we sat next to each other, and he was sniffing cocaine, and I was trying to just get it over pretty quick. Because like I know he likes me, but I had experiences where his demons popped up, and I was like, fuck
this.
Yeah, and I was standing in the corner, and he started just talking to me like, dude, I love you, but don't talk right now. And I was standing in a corner just looking at the knife, and I was like, don't look at the knife, don't look at the knife. And that was kind of what happened in that situation, that I sat next to him. He was sniffing cocaine and telling me crazy stories about a prostitute that was living at his place. And then
dirty energy, man, just pure dirty energy. Wow.
Yeah, and then
you need to find a new dealer, man. Seriously.
I stopped it. That was for me like, yo, fuck it. I grow my little plant at home, and that's better to do it that way, to not fall back into the addictive pattern that I had for a long time. And I never really celebrated that victory for myself. I really realized just right now. Yeah, and then he just picked up the gun. It's a victory
to celebrate.
Yeah, many victories I feel like I haven't really celebrated. Was always like on the run. Oh my God, I have to get out of the crazy shit and try to help the people that I felt guilty for, like things I projected onto them, and the whole confusion. Like the sexual talks too were like, for me, man. Where is the line? When am I doing something good for the people, and when is it totally fucking up their realities? Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Go ahead.
I wanted to say something as well. With cannabis, if you flip the frequency on cannabis, it can become a powerful protector and ally. And there's many different ways for your own alchemical process. Cannabis is a magical plant, and if you co-create it in the right way, it won't work against you. Even just having the plant in your home is like a protector spirit. If you've got to connect with the plant, speak with the plant, give prayers with the plant, sing with the plants. You've got to bring it into your process and honor it for the type of being that it is, and it will speak back. It's just, these things aren't negative, but we can use them in a negative way. But it's all lessons at the end of the day. You can see she's a teacher spirit, right?
Yeah.
So to let everybody know, we're going to do an ongoing series that's going to be about urban and suburban shamaning. That's going to teach you how to create sentinel-based plants, like what exactly Maty was talking about. Because yes, one cannabis plant in your sacred grove area can amplify the spirits of everything around there immensely.
Amazing. Like I didn't talk that much to that plant, but I have to put the intention on it more. Like I'm playing a lot of piano in the room where the plants is growing.
Yes. Just talk directly to them as if, even if they're not speaking back to you, you can't hear it come back, doesn't matter. You know that it's listening. So you just speak to it as if it was, another person such as yourself.
Yeah, I just had that moment like 2 or 3 days ago where I popped up the tent and I was like, hey, sorry, I haven't been talking to you or done prayers into you.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I call her Mary, and I'm like, morning, Mary. Open up and then wait for the response. How are you today? And she talks to me like an old friend. Yeah.
And Andrew,
we've been through a lot together, actually.
Andrew, a quick question connected to this. So someone who deals with, cannabis, I know it's like a healing plant, a medicine plant. What are the karmic stuff going on with someone who's regularly selling cannabis compared to the drug destruction?
We have to separate dealers from growers. There are growers that are dealers, but they're both. But if you are just a dealer, it coming to you has grower protection on it, meaning what's been put into it is in it and it's solidified in it. If it comes from a cartel wild run, meaning they go out into the middle of nowhere and they have 5 guys producing 1,000 plants, it's going to have all the negative energies of all those guys that are doing that. And then the journey to get it to the pick, from pick to bud, and then compressed and sent commercially, which has the highest levels of corruption on it. Whoa. Now, if it's somebody that's just dealing from a local source, like let's say there's 8 or 9 local growers who don't produce enough to get noticed by the FBI or the cops, you're dealing local karma then. And sometimes that turns into blood feuds.
Wow, like I'm not really involved and never wanted to sell something. And I felt like right when I came back and smoked the first joint, I felt the energy, and that kind of scared the shit out of me, just to feel his dominance and all of the energy that was attached to it, because I know like that's the stuff he likes talking about when I'm there. Like if he can feel that I'm very uncomfortable with all those scary things, and yeah,
just by putting yourself there, you agree to it. You know, it's ultimately it's your choice at the end of the day. You put yourself there.
Now there are things that you can do to prepare yourself for that environment, and then the cleansing you do afterwards, and then the clearing of the cannabis itself, so their imprint is no longer on it, or the imprint from the demonic network that got it to you.
Yeah.
Okay. You just have to do your due diligence on the people, places, situations, and items that are exchanged. Okay.
So like the food, isn't it? When you do the revocations over the food, it's a similar thing. Yeah.
So Martin, do you have a sacred space? Do you have an altar?
Yes, but I haven't really been using it. I was doing mainly revocations over the last weeks.
Okay, so even just a place where you go to do your prayers and you sit down, you know, you light a candle. I actually do like an indoor fire on mine, but on that sacred space, you know, I keep it clean, and that's where I go to do my prayers and rituals. And sometimes I'll just sit down, just smoke cannabis in front of the altar with the candle going and see what happens. But what I do is I'll put any any cannabis or any plant medicines on the altar, and then leave it to take that prayer energy. You know, there's so many different ways that you can transmute it.
Okay, yeah, because that was kind of like the thing where he popped up in my dreams and crushed into the door, and I had this whole scenario in my brain, like fucking everything around me was telling me like, hey, goodbye.
So are you intending to grow, are you intending to grow again for yourself?
Yes, I just started growing a little plant.
Just one?
Just one, yeah.
Did you start it from seed, or did you get a clone?
No, I started from seed.
Beautiful. So how old is it?
I think now about 1 or 2, not 2 to 3 weeks.
So give it a birthday. Like this. Yeah, give it a birthday. It's date that you think roughly it popped into the dirt. You know it was going to grow. Okay, and start giving it every week is a new birthday for it, because it's going to go through a whole bunch of updates on its education and its awareness. And the more you can put into it at its education and awareness, the stronger this plant will be when it goes into full growth phase, and then being ready to switch over to be bloom. Because then you're going to change, when it goes to bloom, you're going to change your conversations level with it. Maty, I know you had a situation where talking to the plants was extremely mystical for you.
Yeah, always. With your seeds feminized, mine?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. Yeah, so the plants for me, it started when I was doing larger grows. I got myself in a lot of trouble. I went to prison as well. I can talk about some stuff. But it was a very haunted scenario. One of them was extremely haunted scenario. And there was all kinds of craziness going on. I can't begin to explain what it's like, you know, in organized crime and the pressures that come with it, but then also the stress of the situations. And this is before I knew about any of this stuff. And it just felt like entering into hell itself. But there was all of those plants there. And I would find myself just playing music, sat in the grow room itself with the plants in a safe space, you know, protected. And ever since that moment, I was able to communicate with the plants, and not just that plant, but all plants. But she was the catalyst towards it. I always say she. I always talk about it as if she's a feminine. But now it's to the point where we have a real working relationship. a real friendship, you know, based in love. And when I see other people's plants, it's the same consciousness.
Yeah.
So the consciousness never changes. I don't go and see your plant and it's a different consciousness to one that I have. It's the same mind.
Yeah. And it stays with you generationally. It may have moods and swings and aspects to it, but it's still the same. And what I was trying to say to you is, like, this is your opportunity to train it so it can train you, so you can train it so it can train you. And it's going to be an ever given back process. And since you're just growing one plant, as I said, give it a birth date, and every week you give it another birthday celebration and go, what have you learned, plant? And then, you know, and let the plant speak back to you too. What does it learn from you? Because it's considered fetus in the womb time. Okay. So you can get your opportunity to influence in such a way that once it goes to bloom and ready to harvest, imprinted are the things that you want on it. Safety, security, relaxation, deep visions, healing, all the natural things you want to program it, and then the removal of the negative things from your reality.
And then you can take the trim, you can take all of the trim that comes off of it and some of the bud, maybe some smaller buds, and then you can infuse that into alcohol. Yep. So you can put that into, I mean, you can brew your own alcohol, or you can get some alcohol. You just do the prayer over it. And so all that prayer in the cannabis then goes into the alcohol, and the prayer that you put in the alcohol emanates, and you've got like a battery, a magical battery. And so each time that you make these prayers and you make these efforts, you can keep them going through your alchemical process.
Have you ever had cannabinol, that's beer brewed with cannabis?
Not really.
It's very rare to find. You have to know somebody that's a good beer brewer to brew it, but it's very different when you have cannabis absorbed into a carbonated beer. And the way to adjust through your stomach and the type of actual, because it's a full-on psychoactive trip. It's a full realm jumper for you. It can be as powerful as blue-toed frog.
Yeah, I liken it to like strong LSD when I ingest it.
I was scared of LSD because I knew that I had quite a lot of traumas that I wasn't looking at. But I have some mushrooms that I grew too. And I did some microdosing over time, like to finally face all the emotions and all the stuff I was running away from. And now that I can call you Andrew, do you think that I'm ready to go on a trip?
A mushroom trip?
Yeah, because I wasn't really sure if I'm ready, or if all the things.
That questioning alone is a sign that when you reach that point.
Let me give you something as a presentation here. Okay. To know if one's ready for that journey means there's a seed of doubt to start with.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm going to do is ask you a series of questions that's the answer is either going to remove the seed of doubt or not. But you won't actually know the answer to the question, because the answer to the question is not inside you, it's outside of you right now. And because your fears are juxtaposed and their perceptions are skewed. So the first thing is, do you have an expectation that something is going to go wrong?
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
I
think that's a topic that is happening with a lot of things, or it had been.
So there's a precondition to condition, and a conditioning, meaning a well-defended system is there. Okay. The next question I'm going to ask you is, are you predetermined to have a bad experience?
I would say no, but I find it hard to find the faith.
Okay.
Myself that I, in a lot of situations.
That means the shame, blame, and guilt doesn't have the same power it did over you before. It means that you might have a good experience, but it's going to be, what are you going to do to prepare to have a good experience? There is a training process. You ever see the Rocky movies where he's got to go into training?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you got to go into training. And if you do the training right, not only will you be ready, you'll have a uniquely powerful experience that will shed off so many of these side fears that you have that somehow still have hooks into you.
Yeah, I can feel like the more I have put away the fantasy really happening and what am I feeling in the moments.
So real quick, what kind of mushrooms did you grow?
Golden Teacher. The
How
name
beautiful.
just sounded cool, and I was like, hey, I could use a good teacher.
Cubensis.
You don't know the potency level of them, do you?
Not really. Like a friend of mine who was really into it told me that they were pretty potent, and I was like taking just little bites.
All right. So real quick, if you're ever going to do this, you got to measure everything. First thing. Okay. Maty, would you agree?
Yeah, I've just had an experience just recently within the last week.
No more Gangster pinching.
No.
Yeah.
Even
Okay,
a gram
Gangster
can be
pinching.
super powerful.
Yeah, Gangster pinching is a very negative term because you're determining if your pinch is a guess. Okay, and some of that stuff may look like it's a big volume, but it weighs nothing. Okay. So my advice for you is start with a 0.5 gram. Measure out a 0.5 gram. Okay. Put a tiny bit of lemon juice on that 0.5 gram. Eat it. Wait 90 minutes. And what do you feel? If you feel good enough to take another 0.5 gram, take another 0.5 gram, but no more after that for your first experience. What that will mean is the way you digest it and the way you come to your peak will be layered. And it'll be very clear what is not the peak and what is the peak. And then how long your peak will last. So if you take the second dose, your peak will just last longer. It won't get stronger.
Okay, amazing. Like I was okay.
So now you got to.
I can see it was very, very dumb what it did.
Now the thing is, you got to prepare you in the environment. The first thing that I'd say is it'd probably be a really good idea to actually go into a UV tanning bed. If you've never done one before, have you ever done a tanning bed before?
Never, no.
All right, so you're like going to be like 2 minutes in there and then you're going to be cooked. Okay, just go pay for one session. You just want one session to try it out to see if you'll like it. That's all you're going to tell them. Tell them what your skin's like, get a UV session, and then just after UV session, plan to do your mushrooms. You're going to clear out a whole bunch of, let's just call it etheric cobwebs. Okay, that the light will clear that out. When you take your mushrooms, you have to have a tripper plan, and I'll simply call it that. Toys to play with, artwork to do, things to invest time into, so that trip focuses on them, and the journey between is what am I physically doing, and hopes of the data giving back, and what is the spirit saying about what I'm physically doing. Okay. Dancing important. Music. Do you play musical instruments?
Yes, piano, bass, drums.
Just make a list, because your journey will last between 4 to 5 hours. If this is your first experiences, it could go a lot longer. And the longer your list is, the better it is. Like the bottom of every half hour, try something new.
And listen as well. Make
right.
Make sure that you record it as well, right? If you're going to get creative and you start to, and the mushroom journey starts, and you get into that creative phase, you're going to want to record what you do. Because I'm pissed off, I haven't done that recently.
Yeah,
because you'll come with some really unique things.
Yeah, that's like I rehearsed now for some time. Like I improvise piano every day, and luckily I started recording more, but I feel it.
Just so you know, those golden caps. So everybody gets affected a little different when they're peaking. So you may have a situation where you go extremely giggly, like uncontrollably giggly. Don't worry about it. It will be suffocating. Quite literally, you won't be able to breathe. It'll be that level of giggly. Roll around on the floor, like literally roll around the floor laughing. you will do the greatest laughter massage you have ever given yourself. Okay?
Oh, I can really use it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it will just shed decades and decades of just garbage we put on ourselves.
Mhm.
That laughter. And that's the unique thing about those golden caps. Not everyone's ready for it, but when you are, and it may last 2-3 hours, just embrace it. No matter how bad it hurts. Embrace it.
I had
Okay.
one the other day, just walking down the street, coming back from a sauna, and I'd done these mushrooms, and I came up, I peaked in the sauna. It was insane. And as I was walking home, I went through the laughter phase. And so the way people were talking to each other, the women having to go at their husbands, it was the funniest thing. I'm just trying to hold my shit together and walk home. It was just, I couldn't actually just let it out, but it was just such a pleasant part of the experience. Life just looked just so ridiculous, everything was just funny.
Amazing.
Beautiful moments.
Thanks a lot for calling in. I hope we gave you a bunch of really good tips.
Good luck,
Thanks
man. And
a lot
listen,
for the tip.
whatever you do, don't allow the fear process to come into your planning. So you're not planning for failure, right? You must make sure that, and if you feel that coming in, that you get a lid on that.
Also, try contract revocations during that state, even if you're giggly.
Yeah.
Okay. You'd be surprised what you can do and how much you can learn from a giggle state reading a revocation out. Like
That's
instantaneous download and understand stuff.
I had it last week. I had 1 or 2 moments where I felt some energies in that before were uncomfortable to me because of the fantasy, and now I flipped the switch on them and I just giggled, and it was amazing.
Wonderful. All right, brother. Thanks a lot for calling in.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Do we want to go a little overtime?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm okay for now.
Yeah.
Okay, because
Well,
it is a Halloween special,
Mwahaha.
we will bring on Trent and Amanda. Hold on, I got to give you a signal to unmute because I'm a dumbass. Hold on. There we go.
Andy, baby, what's up?
There you go. Let me give you. There, you got your video. There you go. Hey, what's going on, brothers, sister?
How you doing?
How's your throat? How's that throat doing?
It's doing a lot better.
You helped a lot. You helped a lot of people, both of you.
I'm glad we did. That's what we're
you.
here for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been up and down. Because sometimes we reach a point where it's like, we're just going through different layers, but it feels like the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're wondering how can we maximize our integration process?
You can't
To where it's
maximize.
not-
you can't
to where it's not
maximize
so
efficiency
painful.
on processing. It is what it is. No matter how hard you try to
Out there.
dual track yourself into that, the more you think you're doing it, the less you're actually doing processing. Processing is its thing. It's each individual subject matter in its time. And when you try it ahead of time, you're going to come up with something that's not going to work.
So it's almost like you got to go through it just
Patience.
with complete acceptance and just, it is what it is, kind of.
It's always a greater experience, always a greater lesson.
Mm-hmm. Look at the patience that I have. I earned that, right?
Yes.
But
Right.
I also earned that through not rushing myself before I had processed the information.
Right.
It's why I mastered that unique skill, and it's what generated the grand master of the obvious inside me. Because I didn't have all this fog of war and consciousness blocking the potentialities.
So you released your expectation of when your integration would be.
Mm-hmm. And didn't no longer competed with it in any way, shape, or form, which generated equal co-creation, non-competition, non-hierarchical order, non-duality, I am living now being. The whole equation to what that language is. And all
Okay.
the things that attach to it and sub-attach to it that help define and validate the I am living now. And the responsibility of awareness that comes with that. We can't rush the unseen, but the unseen can rush us.
Yeah.
Yes, and it does. And it does. I'm like, I'm doing the best I can, guys.
So listen, there's something else about the unseen to know. Even though we can't officially rush it, we can drop subtle hints that's like reverse programming it to understand our way. Okay. And when it gets aware that you're doing it, it will be pissy with you.
Mm-hmm.
But this is how we use our prayers, leapfrogging through time. Okay. So right now you're in a transitional state of understanding how the energies flow, how the business works, all the ups and downs of it, and the pressures you're putting on yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
We pressure ourselves so much.
So you don't see a future right now, not like you did before 6 months ago.
Yes, that's true.
All right. So just want you guys to focus on this. Your two eyes. This is an individual experience for each of you, but just close your eyes. Okay. On the inside of your eyelids, what do you see?
I see like black blotches, maybe a couple white lines.
Okay. Transfer that up to your third eye and just let that upload as an image. Amanda, what do you see?
I think I see an Octorian moving in. It's like a blue being.
Okay. Just upload that to your third eye and let that sink in. All right, Trent.
I'm still seeing black.
You're still seeing black.
Did I not move it up?
This isn't about seeing anything other than, can you imagine a red apple? Can see a red apple. Amanda, you can do the same thing now. Can you see a red apple?
Yes.
Can you touch it?
Yes.
Trent?
See, it's weird because I feel like sometimes when I close my eyes, I can go in different states.
Mhm.
Like I can go into like this creative abstract state, and then like in the moment, and it's like there's nothing there but black. Does that make sense? Because sometimes I can abstract create.
That's how much doubt you have that's expending energy at any given moment of your life. And if you were to take that doubt out, you'd have 30% more daily energy available to you. That's
So
how
how do I
hard
do
that doubt is enforced into the spirit realm of validation. Because you're still, your negative sides are trying to force validation to break faith.
Yeah, and I also noticed the ego will try to clinch to any identity that it can, you know, whether it's a movie or a new philosophy, or like it clinches to anything.
Okay, so let's go back to the apple.
Okay.
Make it real, make it solid, make it touch it, and so you can bite into it and hear the and the taste. If you can do that, your third eye working. If it's not, turn in your third eye and get a new one. Joke. Okay.
Trade me. Trade me.
Don't work that way. You got to work with what you got and all the parts you started with.
So the way that we train this third eye is to begin to release our self-doubt, right?
And expectation.
And expectation. And my expectation is
your ego
this
side.
milestone,
yeah.
that I'm gonna reach it at this place or this place.
Yeah.
Do I still got
a rating, a scale? Yes, all of it. You can't do any of that.
Because it's weird because sometimes I'm like really good at creating. Like I'm in my head a lot more than I'm in the present, which I'm working on. But sometimes, like whenever you told me to do the exercise,
you have never been tamed by a schedule. Then
I actually used to be on a schedule and.
No, tamed by a schedule.
Tamed by a schedule?
Your will broken by a job.
Oh, yeah, you've
For
been
years in a row. Repetitive.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You've never been tamed. And right now, what you're experiencing is self-taming. Instead of having a job teaching you how to do it and being at fault, making it at fault for everything, you're at fault for not even starting. To build an endurance that you have to teach yourself and enforce yourself, learn and relearn.
And that comes with a daily practice of discipline.
And the letting go of expectation and reminding yourself, because we take on expectations of our fears or our shards or our other parts of ourselves will be whispering into us these expectations, and they somehow leak through to the consciousness.
So how can one begin to release their expectations? For me and everybody listening. I mean, I know it's simply as don't expect anything, but like, what are some exercises that we can do to like really reinforce that? because I do have expectations on things, and I don't want them because the expectations take away from the moment.
There's a non-circular philosophical argument that you probably haven't been introduced to. Okay?
What is it?
Expectation creates limitation. Limitation is the form of our inability to execute. Consciousness plus reality equals the nature of reality. It's a mathematical way of seeing how consciousness reacts and interacts and doesn't act, and interacts and doesn't interact at the same time.
Okay.
And you're trying to see and perceive all of it and take control of it arrogantly. Okay. And that is an energy inside you that's coming from the DNA, in which you have to turn off and allow the consciousness to acknowledge everything equals simultaneously without in competition. And it's going to be a learned experience for you. That's the taming of the shrew. You taming yourself with your own will. You could also see it as tempering with steel. There's little other terminologies you can use. Okay, you got to hammer your red metal over and over again until it's what you want it to be.
Yeah.
And that's how we use the spiritual practice, like weightlifting experiences or cross-country hikes or mountains, going up and down mountains. There's the spiritual work that has the equivalency of it.
Yeah.
So if you can see an apple and taste an apple, nothing's wrong with you. And I think 99.9% of the people in this audience can do it. So your only limitation is what's more than an apple. Okay, how many apples before it's can you see yourself making 1,000 apples? Okay, and then let's say instead it goes from apple to dragon. What are the rules now? There are no rules. You're the creator of your own reality.
Mm-hmm.
And when you learn to layer multiple forms of experiences from memory, because you've mastered operating the hologram, you put aside this physical space, you enter that, we'll just call it voidy space, and your third eye becomes a projector. It projects out an experience and makes it a part of a bubble of experiences that many other memories will influence, which will create patterns. And then a vision from all these patterns will occur. And that's our doorway to our future.
Okay, here's a question. What if you can see the apple easier when your eyes are open? Like for me, if
that means that actually means you're not getting enough delta REM sleep at night, and you're too often in delta sleep during the day, and something's off about your sleeping cycles. And that you have to take serious note on your depth of sleep that you're actually getting.
So do you think that needs a schedule too?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a whole other part of you who wants to do things at night and wants to be the night owl.
Yeah, because some of my best downloads are, after 11:30. I just know things.
Mm-hmm. But you can know things in dream time and bring them over to the other side.
Yes, that's what you said.
Right. Which I've been remembering little bits and pieces more of my dreams, because I mentioned that I hadn't remembered my dreams.
Make it a new sacred spiritual practice that I'm creating a go to bed time that is far earlier than I'm normally used to. And all those experiences I would have at late at night will transfer to my dream world. And the prayers I put over my dream time preparation of the going to sleep early are the prayers that I will use to fund the experience of having a good dream space.
I also noticed another thing too. I'll get a real big burst of energy at night. And I was like, this is probably the burst of energy.
Do you drink coffee?
I was drinking Red Bulls pretty heavy there for a while, and I stopped like a week ago.
Okay, you haven't stopped yet. Yeah,
I had an orange juice today, Andrew.
That doesn't matter. If you've been doing Red Bull regularly for more than a month, you are going to have some serious patience issues pop up. Simple as that. The shit that's in there, it activates a very impatient part of us. We think we're moving faster, but you're not actually moving faster. You have more chemicals in your system. Yeah, you have more chemicals in your system that is trying to make fake memory. And what is a fake memory? What actually happened between blinks of that person's eye? Who cares? Okay. It's overthinking the moment. That's all that those drinks do.
Right. And It definitely has done that because it's caused anxiety for me.
And now it's created a habit pattern at night for you, okay? Because they accumulate through the day. And your liver has to go through several different expunging processes of what it's actually processing from the different Red Bulls, which will then leave the byproduct at the end of the night, this weird batch of shit that's going to come up that it's your processing system spitting out the raw tape of what it just did.
So how many colonics would you say that I need? I did one the other day, and I actually, the first one I done,
You cannot quantify this.
I try to quantify everything. Don't I?
Yeah, give that up.
Okay.
Save yourself an infinite amount of arguments that are quantitatively infinite. Okay.
How do I do that, Andrew?
You'll know when you're done with colonics. You'll know you'll know when you're done.
Just start
first
with
one I
one.
had, it
Just
felt-
start with one a week for 9 weeks. Okay.
All right.
Okay. If you want to go to 12, you can go to 12. But by 9, you should be pretty close. Okay.
Now, is it okay? I have some colonic coffee that I add to that. Is that cool? Or no?
No. Well, first thing first. Are you
It's
doing a
caffeine.
Kalima board, or are you going to a person to do Colonic?
No, I bought a bucket on Amazon.
Okay. So you just have a bucket and a tube,
And a controller.
and you don't have the dome, the thing that comes with it?
Dome thing?
All right. You are in a situation where this shit's going to explode out of you all over the wall. Hold on one second.
I don't know what the dome thing is that you're talking about.
Hold on one second.
Why don't you show them the box?
I don't want to pull out my colonic bucket and show
No.
you.
I got it. Just one second here. I just got to share screens. Just one second.
Colonic board.
That's what they were talking about earlier.
I actually use a hydroponic pump, so I get a bucket with a hydroponic pump on it and a tube that fits just right, and I'll fill up and then empty and then fill up and then empty. But it can, if you get it wrong, if you don't go past the right folds and the right bends properly, and you're just sitting on the side, on the inside like that, and it can just back up and come straight out again.
Oh,
so yeah, you have to be prepared to tidy up the mess.
Yeah, I've only got 2 bottles of water so far. I'm like not anywhere
That's not
close
enough.
to
That's not even enough to start with.
You want to do
2
like
bottles.
10 liters minimum.
10 liters.
10 liters minimum.
That's not one flush, because you'll find you'll have to fill up and then evacuate and then fill up again on that amount of water.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And fasting
That's
as well,
a
if
long
you can do it. It
time.
depends what state your body's in, but if you can fast for a couple of days as well, and drink lots of water, then it increases it. But it's not recommended. Sometimes you can get poorly if you do it too much. I got quite sick the last time I did it because I just hit it too hard, and then it was just like having the flu.
It can take all your vitamins and stuff out of you, right?
Yeah.
Is that a link that you sent, Andrew? Or somebody sent?
Somebody put that in there. Yeah, my computer's just acting really slow right now. Basically, it's a plastic board with a dome on it that fits over the toilet. So the shit spray that's shooting out of you goes into the dome and down into the toilet.
Yeah, I didn't have one of those.
Yeah, you need that to do it right.
It would have made my life a lot easier.
Yes.
You've got to figure out how to do the depth right as well, because honestly, the twists and turns in there, if you're not going in far enough, it's going to back up. And sometimes you've got to give a little push.
Yeah.
Go around the curve.
Go actually have somebody do it for you twice so you know what it's like. And then get the board and you can do the rest at home.
Honestly, the amount of work and cleanup and everything that goes into it, it's worth it to just pay somebody to do it.
If you have a board, it makes it worth it because the board's only 110 bucks. Okay. The board takes care of all the cleanup, quite literally. You just put the board on the shower as soon as you're done and cover and clean it the right way. You don't use bleach on it.
Okay.
And you could reuse that board over and over and over again. You just put on towels and because you know what the big splash zones in the dome. Okay.
Right.
Okay. And if you can get it in and figure out how to get your feet balanced right in the right air. Okay. And then learn stomach massage, like I talked about with the lady in the first beginning of the call. But
I do
this
handstands as well on the door.
yeah. See, the colonics are only the first strategy and passive overcoming our active selves. Regular colonics is just taking away background power from everything and giving it back to you, and then you got to hold on to it. The big thing for you is you don't see a future. Okay?
Why is that?
You made too much expectations, and none of those things came true, which broke your faith, broke your vision, broke the link to the future that you saw from the very beginning, where you sniffed out something that said, this is for me.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's why I'm here on this call, Andrew, to, because I'm trying to push myself towards things that, I'm scared of.
You know the George Michael song, Got to Have Faith?
Sing it for me.
Got to have faith. Got to have faith. Yeah.
Thank
you.
you.
You need that rhythm in you again. You got to find your gospel, whatever you're going to be, that inside music again. You've tuned out of it and you've been listening to metal for too long.
Yeah, I stopped listening to that stuff. I've been listening to some pianos and some shaman stuff and been singing my own stuff. It's weird because I was watching your light language show the other day and I was trying to do light language and it kept turning into a song.
He was doing it though.
I was doing it though.
Majority of my light language is done in song. So song. If I'm on my own, I'm in that space, then it always turns into song, especially in water or in the bath. And for me, that's a much purer way of light language as well, because so many other species use song as communication. They don't just speak the way that we do.
That makes sense. Like the whales, right?
Yeah, we've been listening to a lot of whale sounds.
I know when Laura was doing her light language, I kept wanting to laugh and smile like a child was. It made me feel really comforting. I don't know what you were saying, but my soul knew.
Soul knew, exactly.
Thought it was great.
Now, back to seeing your future. Yeah. What caused you to loss of your future? Was there a moment in your space time, where the light switch turned off? Guess, even if you're guessing.
I don't know. I think maybe the stuff that happened with my son was pretty big for me. I mentioned before to you. The prison time and all that stuff.
You got onto the path of healing and you aren't seeing yourself move as fast as you are. So this isn't natural. This is
your mic's a little bit messed up, Andrew.
Current journey you're going through.
Actually, we can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No. Nope.
Well, we can hear you, but it's not right.
It just sounds like you're
sounds like you're speaking in a tin. Hear me now?
They don't want Trent getting this message.
I need this medicine.
It's because Andrew needs to sort his tech out.
Come on, Robert. Where's Robert at?
I say work, computer.
There you go.
There we go.
There we go.
He's back.
All right, Andrew, I'm all ears.
So you lost your future from the person that was on this current journey. It's recent that you lost this faith. It's not an old faith lost. This is a new one.
Well, I've had a couple very powerful psychoactive trips. And I think some of me may not have came back from that.
Think or no?
I know.
Did they need to go?
Some of them did, yes.
And there's parts of you that miss them.
Yeah, there's parts of them that gave me identity, and now I'm
They
without
were
this identity.
They were ripped from some of your unawareness that they're being ripped out of your reality. And now you have to accept, if you would have stayed with them, you couldn't have gone to the next level. And the only choice is to go backwards or accept moving forwards. And this is a spiritual hump for you right now. You can't have identity through them anymore because it's your identity.
And I realized that they were living through me.
Yes,
Trying to
vicariously
take-
living through you.
Trying to take my identity. So with me knowing that, why haven't I accepted that? And why am I at this current state?
Because you had expectations to be at a current state and you're not there, over and over and over and over and over and over again until it broke your faith.
Thinking I would reach some enlightened faith through these mushrooms that didn't actually happen.
No, it did happen. It just made it happen much faster than it was supposed to. And now you got to deal with that mistake. Or was it a blessing? It's considered a mistake now, and in a year from now, the biggest blessing you ever had, because you will have figured it out.
It was the biggest blessing that I ever had. Both of them were. And it definitely changed parts of myself. My first one lasted 7 days. I was tripping for 7 days. And I was literally like in the information of whatever I really wanted to know. I guess you could call that the Akashic Record. It was like I reached a state where I had to come down because like I figured out I could use these keywords to like program things into my reality. And it started like really fucking with me. And I had to come down from that.
You had to give up. You had to give up the infinite power and all the temptation it offered to go back into your body where you're going to be in a displeased state because you don't have the patience to be a finite being, because you want to be an infinite being and you want it now.
But it's crazy because when I reached that state, the only thing I wanted was to be me in the now. I didn't want to be that anymore. I couldn't fucking handle it.
That was the battle between the different parts of you, though. You're only identifying one part through your perception, even though there's many other parts to the perceptions here, which represent aspects and fractals of you who don't have the same vision that you have right now. That's why those parts had to go. And now it's, can you put Humpty Dumpty back together again? Or in a better state, you were never Humpty Dumpty to begin with. You didn't fall off a wall and break every bone in your body. You took a big kick in the ass and maybe fell over, got some dirt on your face. You ain't dead. Got all your arms and legs, right? Didn't kill anyone. Okay. You didn't go Daryl Bricks full on, through a parade of people.
I did not.
Okay. And then never admit you killed 6 people and ran over 72 others. That just happened in our American court case right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that it was one of the best things that's happened. I would say that, a lot of me is still kind of sort of processing that. And, I think a big part of me like wants to have an identity, and I have this knowingness.
No. You just faux pas. You just did the biggest spiritual faux pas. You don't think you actually have an identity until you make one, or the old identities are there. And you have to understand the nature of the faux pas that you did. And no matter what you think, this is a faux pas. This is a pure-on spiritual faux pas of the highest Freudian spirit slip. You don't have an, you don't, let me finish. Okay. You say something that you weren't supposed to say out loud. It was supposed to be an internal statement. But
oh shit.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, here it is.
Okay. You don't actually think you have an identity.
Well,
it comes back to prison, what you went through, the whole 9 yards. Back then, your original break was just, I don't have an identity anymore. And to this day, that's still unhealed aspect of I don't have an identity, and trying to force identities on yourself that just create the loop of expectation.
Yes.
Okay. You want to go back to that? You need to be the sovereign being who was born under that name and accept all the things that you do Ask for forgiveness for all that you can and be of service when you're done. And be a good person. The rest is shame, blame, and guilt.
We're both in that cycle.
Yeah, we are, because, I've done that, but in a lot of ways, I go back to the cycle.
Back to the cycle of expectation, because it's like the weatherman. It's right 10 times a year.
Yeah.
How many times of the year is the weatherman wrong?
Damn
Don't
near
count
every
that.
time, bro.
We all complain. Okay.
Yeah. So how does one get out of that loop and stay out of that loop? To know you have an identity. I mean, because my identity is this version of everything.
No, it's not. That all no, it's not.
That's not my identity.
No, those are all characters you created since the initial loss of your original identity. They're all fictional characters of you've created. You're still not the original one, who can add all these other experiences to you, because you've separated the original one from your identity. It's no longer your identity, even though there's ongoing linear experiencing you, who's not the center identity. And all these different identities are battling for gangland power of you.
And I almost asked who is the original, and I was like, it's me.
It's the OG.
It's literally me.
It's OG. OG Gangster. You. Okay. It's you. And what is it going to take for you to argue for you instead of argue for some other you?
So my identity is literally just an ever-present experience.
Is it? You don't actually have a real identity, but you're describing it as a real identity in a statement to me.
Yes.
Wheel turner. Yes, I know. Process. Back wheel turning.
So just tell me who I am, Andrew. Yeah.
I have told you who you are.
Yeah.
You're the original you. You just can't see it. It is completely camouflaged from you. Its signature frequency has been erased from your digit box.
Well, what's the path of remembering?
You bridge the gap between not knowing them and knowing them again.
Between not knowing them and knowing them
again. Hmm?
So that's just a state of being, right?
Is it?
I'm asking the Galactic Historian.
Yeah, I'm giving you a Saban. Is it? You have the wisdom.
I believe it is.
Okay. And there's many other ways to achieve that wisdom too. Just don't get locked into one way of wisdom. Give yourself many ways of wisdom to seeing this, because it is not one. No one way of wisdom will solve this conundrum for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because, my whole life, like, I've attached myself to identities outside of myself, and it's caused a lot of confusion for me, in my adult life. And I think a lot of it's ego.
It is. So what are you going to do about it?
I have this.
What are you going to hold on? What are you going to do about it?
Well, I have to keep exposing it and bringing truth to it. And
who gave you this mission?
Well, I gave myself this mission.
When?
I mean, what, in fraud time or actual time?
So now you realize hold on. Now you realize I'm spiritually interrogating you, and your defenses have turned on.
Okay.
Hold on a second. I gotta switch devices. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, 1 second here.
I get this plugged in.
I give you permission to spiritually interrogate me, Andrew. Let's get to the bottom of this.
Hold on, I'm gonna have some fun with this. Just 1 second. I gotta fix my
great.
cord.
Trent wants the hot seat.
Yeah, because.
All right, hold on. Mr. Maty, where are you? Okay, we're gonna good cop, bad cop.
Good cop, bad cop me.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to be good? You want to be Maddie? Do you want to be good cop or bad cop?
Maddie's always
Oh,
the
bad
good
cop.
Ah.
Okay. So you're
No,
gonna
I'll be good
bad
cop. Go on, I'll be good cop. I'll be good cop. You'll make a better bad cop.
I'll be bad cop.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute.
Hold on one second. All right. Sorry, I gotta grab something real quick. All right. I've got a whole bunch of things going on at the house here at once.
Maybe you gotta
I
get
know.
his whole house set up for this.
Yes, I know. It's all about energy. All right. You're driving your car. Hold on. You're driving your car. Okay. You're playing your music, and you're gonna go get groceries. So it's very innocent. Okay.
Okay.
As you're turning into the parking lot, a cop puts up his sirens. Whoop 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 whoop. Okay.
Okay.
What's the first thing that goes through your mind?
Like, fuck. I'm getting pulled over.
Okay, pause, Maddie, because this is multi-dimensional good cop, bad cop, and you're going to be the good cop. Give him validation he's doing nothing wrong.
Yeah. Okay, so have you broken any laws? Have you done anything wrong? Are you about to commit a crime?
No.
So you're just pulling into a parking lot. Have you got a license?
Yes.
Remember, this is infinite. You can answer any question, any answer you want. Okay. You've got insurance?
Yeah.
Yeah. So everything's good, right?
This voice has not, right. This voice now has been validated. Poof.
Yeah.
Okay, cop comes up to your window, bad cop, and goes to you. Do you know what you just did over there? What's your response to that?
I would say, no, sir. What did I do?
Okay. Good cop, what do you say to him? Maddie?
I'm going to give you an opportunity to admit what you've done.
I love it, Maddie. I'm going to give you an opportunity to admit what you've done.
Okay, now, am I aware of something I did wrong or no?
No.
Okay, then I would probably say if I did know, I would tell you. Though that may not be true.
Okay, so you have multiple answers now that have different validation points in them.
I
Okay.
always have multiple answers.
Hold on. That's fine. That's fine. Bad cop says to you, license and registration.
Okay.
Okay.
I
Hand
grabbed
over that.
Yep. Hand it
Okay.
over.
Okay. He goes back to his car. Now, bad cop takes over Maddie's place as the talker. So the good cop is on the outside of the door talking to you. So good cop talking to him from outside the door instead of inside the car now.
I'm sure everything's going to be fine, buddy. You've got all the documents we need. Is everything okay with you?
Yeah, I'm good. Just trying to get some groceries for my family.
Okay. Validated voice.
That was
Now
so
internal,
genuine.
now internal bad cop voice. Oh, I know this guy's a dealer. I can smell weed coming out of his car. But how many warrants are we gonna get on him? Validated voice, and then you think, do I have warrants out for me?
Yeah.
Yeah. All that stuff. Now, the whole point of this exercise was to get you to see you and the voices you validate you-ness with. The you-ness.
The
Your original
knowingness.
scar, the knowingness of you. The original you, your original signature frequency is not attached to you anymore. You're trying to create a new identity without the original signature frequency. This whole little experience back and forth, it's always been you at the center, not the character that's taken over. The secondary and tertiary answers are the other characters that take over.
So
First answer- Go ahead.
whenever I'm preparing answers and stuff inside my head, that's not actually me.
Is it? Only you will know when you look back on it.
I mean, it could. I mean, it's arguable because, you know, I could speak truth inside my mind, but if I'm present and speaking, then that's actually fully me, right?
Sure. You're quantifying something. Yes. Are you quantifying the fullness of you being present?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Am I quantifying the fullness of me being present?
Authenticity.
If I'm what, speaking from a moment, or if I'm thinking?
Both.
Well, it depends on who the character is at that moment, honestly.
Uh-huh. But
Because
who creates the
sometimes-
character? Who creates the motivation for the character? Who's the inspiration? Who's the one that breathes? Who's the one that has some sympathetic and parasympathetic reaction? Who's the one that has all the fascia attached to the body? Who's the actual one that has their fingerprint signature as the actual Eunice here in this reality in the Babylonian money magic system, and all the cards and IDs that validate the you?
I would say that would be me.
Mm-hmm. So why is there a doubt in you?
Why is there a doubt in me?
A doubt strong enough for you to disconnect from the original you and to try to create subsequent yous or alter yous in place of the original you.
Was this programs that I created during my younger years?
Yeah, you were a we back then. You weren't a me.
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
See, the thing was I was so much a me that I became a we.
Yes,
Like
that happens frequently. Yeah.
It's like I wanted to rebel so much that I conformed to certain things and would rebel against everything else. Made no sense. No sense.
That's the identity crisis you're going through right now. Am I a me or a we?
Well, I'm most certainly a me.
Okay, so I
Though
want to add a
say
little.
that
I want
with
to add another layer to this experience. So now, Laura, I'm going to bring you in as an interrogator, and I want you to ask him interrogating questions about himself, meaning the we's or the me's. I know I might have put you on the spot there.
Yeah, it's okay. I just have to put something through my mind.
It's all right. Interrogate me. It's totally fine.
Okay. Remember the whole point of interrogation is to bring a reactionary energy of unexpectedness.
Yes. Okay. So before you speak, do you ever connect to your heart? Do you ever think about your heart?
Consciously.
Yeah, consciously.
Yeah, at times I do. Not always.
And what comes up for you when you're thinking about your heart?
Whenever I'm thinking with my heart, it's not what's good for just me. It's more about what's good for, parties other than me.
So you're a martyr.
Yeah.
What's that?
So you're a martyr.
I mean, am I?
You just said it. You just said it. When you look in your heart, it's others first.
So why are you
No,
making
I said
them
it
more
was the
important than you?
consideration of myself and others.
No, you didn't actually say that when you go back and listen to it. There's another Freudian spiritual faux pas coming through here.
When was it?
All right.
When
Call it out.
Trent, when was it you decided that others were more important than you? That had place there, that had that place before you in your heart?
I think whenever I wanted their approval and their acceptance and their validation.
Okay. So you waffled back and forth between sovereign and unsovereign, looking for validation and approval from others.
Yeah.
Now, Dale, I'm going to bring Dale in here. You kind of
Hello.
getting the direction I'm trying to put it into? Ask an interrogating question to a subconscious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give it to me raw, Dale.
So do you really?
Dale's gonna teabag you.
Don't teabag me, Dale.
I knew he was going to come.
So do you really trust yourself enough to go forward on your journey and succeed?
In a lot of ways, yes. In some ways, no. In some ways, I do have a fear because of what I have done. And, I've had this fear of too much awareness, too much integration. And so there's some truth to that, but there's also a lot of BS to that as well.
And have you forgiven yourself, or has these other parts forgiven yourself?
Not entirely.
And do you love yourself?
Do I live for myself?
Do you love yourself?
Do I love myself? Most days, yes.
And how often are those days you don't love yourself? Is it frequent?
Not like they used to. I've had a lot more better days this past 6 months to a year than I ever have. So I think self-love is kind of a journey for me.
And if you could say anything to the past self, what would you say? Who did all those mistakes, or whatever you did, just experience?
I would say that things may seem really, really bad now, but you will be turning into a person that's different than the person you are then.
And being there's a future.
And there is a future.
There's a future.
Beautiful, River.
And there has to be a future because there's a future now.
Right.
Looking
Ancient,
back to then.
It's ancient, real now.
You just can't put expectations on it.
And that's
Or
where
who you
the
are.
right. That's where their journey to being ancient, present now is. It is the state of letting go of all forms of expectation. And it's part of the sacred neutral journey.
Trusting the process.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And healing is a process, not an event.
Yes,
A
it is.
coordinated event that we
And the
get
work
a
never ends.
badge at the end of the event.
Yeah, the work never ends. There is no finish line. It just keeps going.
Sometimes it gets easy, then
Yeah.
sometimes it gets really hard. Okay? It's
Yeah.
like seasons. Okay.
Yeah, I also have some paranoia programming, Andrew.
Mhm.
You guys want to interrogate me about that?
Left over from prison.
Yeah.
You think so?
Oh, I know so.
I had all kinds of junk from prison. I did as well. All kinds of junk stuck on me for years after coming out.
So Trent, how I can tell it's still in your eyes.
Yeah, I mean,
Still in your eyes.
I got emotional. You guys touched my heart there. Whenever I went back to that past version of myself.
Okay. That is you and isn't you anymore. The parts that got pulled off during those medicine experiences were the parts of you in the old you, but those parts have been pulled off that old you now. And are you willing to look at the old you in a new light and understand that old you and the new you are the same being, that their experiences are separated by this fine line of judgment? And that there's certain aspects of the real you that need to be integrated into the full you for the many characters that you will create in your ongoing evolution of who you are.
Yeah.
You may need to have a cowboy stage with a big hat and the boots. Okay. Or you may need a punk rock stage. Those are the metaphors of the different consciousness growths you're going to go through.
You're in the shaman stage.
Yeah, you're in the shaman stage now.
Yeah, I bought a llama poncho and a drum.
Okay, you're in the shaman stage now. You got clothing and a musical instrument.
I ain't been just dicking off the whole time.
No, you've been doing work.
I figured out lantern flies aren't evil, guys, so please don't squish them.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot for
It's
calling
like-
in.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right,
You're
Andrew,
welcome.
I appreciate it.
Take it easy, guys.
Thanks.
All right,
Thank
guys,
you.
we've gone an hour over. We got to call it an end to the show. But we will be back tomorrow. And Laura, what are we going to be covering tomorrow?
Oh my goodness, it's so late in the day to try and remember. Hold on, let's have a look at what we decided for tomorrow. Go on, Dale, can you remember?
No.
That's what I've written down. Oh, shit.
Tomorrow is
Just so everybody knows, I'm teaching them all the ropes of internet broadcasting, and we have discovered the power of links.
Oh,
And Dale specifically is going to be a thumbnail master.
I'm going on YouTube to get my PhD.
Tomorrow is brilliant. A tour with the Warriors of the Twilight.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it was.
Yes,
Oh.
that's part one. Part two is the Scotland tour talk.
So everyone, we will be talking Warriors of Twilight tomorrow. You're like, who is that? What is that? This is a myth. This is that. Just let yourself ponder what those words mean, and we'll introduce you to an alternate perspective that's out there. And then we're going to be talking about the Scotland tour. I've gotten plenty of emails about when is the tour? When can I sign up? When I talked about it on air 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, we had just finished our first planning meeting that day. Okay. So we're just about to get our final bid. But we're going to talk about everything that's going to be included into it. And then once we have our final bid, we'll put it up for everyone to sign up for. And it will be in for July 2023. Am I right? Yeah. July 2023.
Yeah. Yeah. And it will be awesome.
All right, everyone, boys and girls, children of all ages, hosts and co-hosts, ethereal hosts and non-ethereal and corporeal, non-corporeal hosts. That is an end to the spiritual contract of this show. We shall see you tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Have a spooky evening, everyone.
Yes.
More
Thank you.